For those who want to continue to speak, you can go outside and do that. Otherwise, we're going to call the meeting back to order. We previously opened the open session at the top of the meeting, and we went into executive session where we discussed the chief's contract, number one, but we also did review, approve, and approve for release 2 sets of minutes that are noted in the executive session, printing in the agenda that you have in front of you. So with that, I hope you could join me with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. We'll end with the printed comments, but does anybody have any staff comments or announcements that are not printed on the agenda?
I'll start, Mr. Chair. Link, do you want to? Go ahead, please. I like going last, really.
Link Hooper, DPW Director. I believe construction on Route 39 Chatham Road intersection begins tomorrow.
Oh, wow, good.
It's been long in coming, and hopefully, the same contractor, D'Ambrosio, has the Safe Routes to School contract that's awarded through Mass DOT, and that'll begin the end of June on South Street. So we've got some progress, and our sidewalk, the Saquatucket Harbor Sidewalk Project, we are hoping, fingers crossed, to have that done in June, other than punch list. So it looks like some things are coming together for the town. Thank you.
We will be discussing later the Harwich Center. I'm hoping you can remain for that.
That's why I'm here, Mr. Chair.
I thought it was because of the safe streets.
Mr. Chair, real briefly.
Sure.
Link, do you know, are there going to be road closures?
For which project?
Your Hope and Go.
I don't know, yes, the one section will be detoured to Lover's Lane.
Okay.
So everybody can get around, people will be able to get to their houses, but yes, there will be a detour right there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have one from Emily Mitchell, Town Clerk. She wanted me to let the community know that tomorrow is voting day, our annual elections in Harwich. Polls open tomorrow at 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. at the Harwich Community Center. Voters in all 4 precincts vote in the gymnasium. Voters wishing to return an early absentee ballot may bring them to the town clerk's office or town hall drop box until 8 p.m. tomorrow. A sample ballot is on the town clerk's webpage and the Town of Harwich Facebook page. Thank you very much, and good luck tomorrow, Emily.
Yeah, I'd like to
Voting
add to
staff.
that, just for anybody out there who's thinking to themselves, well, there are hardly any contested races, I don't need to go. Anything that got voted on that requires a borrowing from town meeting is going to be on the ballot, although it will appear on the ballot for the engineering for the highway, the DPW building, and the result won't matter because the town meeting turned it down. But the other 2 items that are there, if they don't pass, despite whatever action was taken at town meeting, they're not going to pass. So people really need to show up and decide for themselves what they want to do with those. Jeff, you said you had something?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I was called today by Harwich's own Van Cachadorian, and he made me aware of a pretty special event being held on May 29th, 30th, and 31st at the Potter softball field, where we will be hosting, Town of Harwich will be hosting the Mass Senior Olympic Games, specific to the game of softball, obviously, down at Potter Field. There'll be 15 to 20 teams from all over the state, and this is, as Van put it, where the Town of Harwich's team will compete against the very best Massachusetts has to offer. He has also invited the Select Board to come to opening ceremonies at 12 o'clock on Friday the 29th, to be either recognized or maybe one of us could throw out the first pitch.
Is that AM or PM?
That would be PM,
Thank you.
since the lights haven't gotten put up yet at the Potter's Field. And if you want to watch some good softball, anybody in town of Harwich, come on down through the whole weekend. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Need it.
Oh, thought I was gonna do it later.
It's always better.
Okay, all right, early is always good. I was wondering if we would be willing to do a plaque for Ella Lombard, who celebrates, I believe it's 105. Normally, we had the cane, but I think in years, we've been trying to do a plaque for people that have been over 100. So I think it might be nice if we did something to recognize that we do have someone in our community that's been in this community for a long period of time, to recognize her as being, 105.
Happy to do that.
Thank you.
I feel like this, in terms of the open meeting law, this is not a heavy lift to at least mention it. I don't think it takes a vote, it's just a consensus that we want to do something like that. So
Right.
unless somebody's objecting, we'll set it up.
I'll take care of it, and I'll bring it, we'll take care of it.
Okay, thank you.
Terrific.
Thank you.
God bless her, 105.
105.
Okay, any other staff? Moving along. We have the two things that are written here that I want to highlight again. We will not be meeting this coming Tuesday. That's the day after Memorial Day. The next meeting that we will have is June 1st, 2026. I'll say it again at the close of the meeting so that everybody can remember that. And there will be a Memorial Day ceremony on the 25th at 9:30 a.m. at Brooks Park. I invite everybody to come. This is a really special year. This is a commemoration of the 250th birthday for the country. So as a recognition of the date, I think it would be really nice if all the folks in Harwich, to the maximum extent possible, come out to the gazebo to share in the observance. All right, weekly briefing.
All right, Phase 3 update for May 18th through 22nd. Construction on the Phase 3 sewer extension will continue to advance across both Contract 1E and 2W during May 18th through 22nd. In the 1E area, crews will be making steady progress along Pleasant Bay Road towards Hall's Path, Route 39 north of Bovacode and Bovaco Road, where installation of gravity sewer mains, sewer laterals, and manholes is ongoing. Pump station work will also continue at the Route 39 pump station and Pleasant Bay pump station and the Bovacold pump station as those facilities move through their next construction stages. In 2W area, work will progress on Chestnut Lane, Harding Lane, Elm Drive, and Maple Lane, where crews will be conducting gravity, sewer, and force main testing and installing brick bench walls, channels, and sewer covers within manholes. Interior site work will also continue at Chestnut Lane Pump Station as the facility advances towards later project milestones. That's the update for this week, and we'll put it on the town's Facebook page as well.
And I know you and I have discussed this, but just I'm committed to making sure that the public hears every week that we're meeting. Brooks Academy.
Brooks Academy. So the RFP for Brooks Academy is going out to bid hopefully in the next month here, and construction should hopefully be this fall into the winter for the siding, the windows, and due to concerns around the funding that we have in place, due to the most recent cost estimate, the roof and the cupola will be adults. Hopefully, we'll be able to get both accomplished within the base bid, but time will tell.
Questions for the town administrator? If I didn't have my head screwed on, we're going to roll back, because I wanted to mention this. We have two really important vacancies that are not being handled in the same manner that we handle regular vacancies with the community, with the Citizens Activity Form. There is the Pleasant Bay Alliance Steering Committee that Alan Thompson had been on, and he is retiring. And we're also looking for applicants for the Cape Cod Commission representative. Again, the Citizens Activity Form is not the mechanism to apply for it. It is going to be, we're going to be putting out flyers. They describe the responsibilities a little bit more in the Citizens Activity Form would be primarily that you have to be available. The Cape Cod Commission position, you're going to have meetings during the week, during the day, and at times in the evening that are augmentations of the regular meetings. And same thing with the Pleasant Bay Alliance. So you have to be available. And to a large extent, you would have to be available during the day. So having said that, these will be coming out when, this week, Jay?
This week, tomorrow, if they look good to you.
Okey dokey. So let's roll forward to the public comments and announcements.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, town administrator, and welcome, assistant administrator. Thank you. I watched,
I know you.
Matt
you know
Sutphin,
Avery.
Matt Sutphin and of Harwich Center. I watched last week's meeting, and there was a contribution by a chairman of a board, in the town board, that questioned my veracity. And so I looked into the minutes. It's touched on a little bit, but it irked me enough so that you're stuck with me tonight with a few words. And if I may approach, I'll just give you a copy of it and a few photographs that run counter to the statement in the minutes.
Soon enough.
So, in your minutes, there were comments by this chairman about petitioners filing false information, and he cautioned the town administrator and select board for getting involved with ideas of petitioners. Petitioners should sell their articles with honest facts, and of course that's the part that kicked me a little bit tonight. I don't particularly like being judged for an effort to change policy. So, with that said, congratulations to the Select Board for recognizing that any antipathy to citizens' petitions is a waste of everyone's time. Speaking for myself, certainly mine could have been better presented at town meeting. Some of us now recognize that kneeling at the altar of process, while necessary to some extent, can totally miss intent in the minds of the Select Board. Adherence to the status quo, not in and of itself an admirable trait, nonetheless must be a consideration when it comes to future advocacy before your board. There is nonetheless the question as to whether or not the Select Board has the stomach to bring forth adaptations and changes on its own. If the board is going to rely on other town boards, committees, commissions, and their chairman to bring forth new ideas, then it should be content simply approving liquor licenses and expenses that others advance. This is not leadership. As a personal matter, last week I listened to a committee chairman tell me I should get my facts straight when it came to the cutting down of the tree in front of the town hall out here. As he told it, I should have been aware that my petition intent was imperfect. Not only was there a dead limb that required the complete removal of the tree, but I had not considered the need for the tree's removal because it was in the middle of the sidewalk. A great afterthought on his part, I guess, but please find a photograph of the former tree location. Please observe an uninterrupted sidewalk. The statement came from a town board chairman, clearly more interested in process control than interested in the facts, and perhaps just not interested in better policy. In closing, to my thinking, the consideration of new policy proposals would only suggest the possibility for better future management in town. Justification of the status quo without curiosity and investigation only demonstrates an unwillingness to consider possible merits. It retards the time. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. I'm Sally Urbano, West Harwich. I have comments too for our select board this evening. I also watched your May 11th meeting and the discussion about town meeting, and I believe a different perspective may be helpful. Rather than offering direct criticism, I'd like to share what struck me as the hidden messages in the discussion, the unspoken assumptions and motivations behind the words. First, there were repeated references to the unusually high number of petition articles, 12. Yeah. The overall tone suggested that citizen petitions are largely viewed as a nuisance to be managed. With so many petitions, I believe a select board that focuses more on policy development rather than day-to-day operations would benefit the town. Since many of the citizens' petitions were actually policy-driven, the natural result would probably likely be fewer petitions needed in the future. And while I admire truly the number of hours you devote each week, your current stipend seems out of balance with that time commitment. Shorter, policy-focused meetings would benefit both the board and the town. Second, I heard a message that citizen voices need to be channeled and controlled. This appeared in two forms. One was the reference to a compiled list of untruths from local Facebook pages. Who will be the judge of truth versus opinion? Freedom of expression is protected speech. While misinformation is frustrating, residents may view such a list as an effort to silence or intimidate those with dissenting opinions. Facebook has become an important outlet for residents who feel their voices aren't fully heard in official channels. Compiling a list of residents' comments risks undermining the trust and respect essential to good governance. The second element was a suggestion to join a committee as the primary path for participation. While committees are valuable, a healthy town also needs independent voices operating outside official structures. Many strong initiatives, including the Captain's Row effort, in which I was heavily involved, began with neighbors organizing independently. Citizens are the legislative branch of our town government. We must be very careful not to shift toward governance primarily by committee. And finally, several select board members with extensive town meeting experience acknowledged that mistakes were made in this year's petition process, and I thank you wholeheartedly for that acknowledgement. However, this year, a standard was established that no petitioner could realistically meet, even when one petitioner was actually an attorney. And once that unreachable bar was set, petitioners were then criticized for failing to clear it. That was confusing to everyone. While we should encourage petitioners to seek input from relevant departments and boards in advance, this should remain advisory rather than mandatory. Massachusetts law protects the fundamental right of citizens to place properly signed articles on the warrant. As you refine the rules for citizens' petitions, please ensure this right is fully preserved and that any new expectations do not create unnecessary barriers to legitimate participation. In summary, the discussion suggested a preference for fewer citizens' petitions, less independent public discourse, and greater participation through official channels. As we move forward, I hope the board will treat all residents with respect and help uphold their right to speak and participate freely, whether it's Facebook, town meeting, committees, or independent efforts. Good governance depends on mutual respect between elected officials and the citizens they serve. A strong Harwich needs both effective leadership and active, engaged citizens. Thank you for listening to me. And Mr. Chair, would you like a copy?
Sure. Thanks. Other citizens? All right.
Public hearing?
No, consent agenda before.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
That would be you.
That would be me. Mr. Chair, I move we approve the Select Board meeting minutes from May 11th, 2026.
Second.
Okay, it's moved and seconded. Any comments, changes? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? It's unanimous. All right, now, we do have a public hearing, so, public hearing notice?
Yes. Mr. Chair, Harwich Select Board, notice of public hearing, harbor management plan. The Harwich Select Board will hold a public hearing on Monday, May 18th, 2026, no earlier than 6 p.m. during their regularly scheduled meeting in the Don B. Griffin, room located at Town Hall, 732 Main Street, Harwich, for the purpose of reviewing a proposed amendment to the Harbor Management Plan, Appendix A. Specifically, Aquacultural Research Corporation, ARC, is requesting 4 working moorings on the Herring River to support a floating upweller system. These moorings would be located south and adjacent to their shoreside facility on the Herring River. Harwich Select Board, Cape Cod Chronicle, April 30th, 2026.
I'll accept a motion to open the public hearing.
So move.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded to open the public hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It's unanimous. Okay, so let's present the particulars, and then we'll go to public comment after.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Harbor Master Harker's here to answer any questions. This relates to the flupsy that we've been talking about for the last few weeks here. This is the moorings that we would need, or that ARC would need to be able to support the flupsy, but I don't know. John, did you want to come up just to say a few words?
Yeah, good evening, John Harker, Harbor Master. Nice to see you all. And I'm here to support this ARC floating working mooring system. I was approached by Mr. Wittenstein on this program April 22nd, and this program has had the 14-day public notice to it. It did go in front of Waterways and was favorable through their eyes as well, and the recommendation up to me. And at this point, we find that this aquaculture will present more of an opportunity to build aquaculture systems and research within the Herring River. It does not impede into the navigable channel, and we support it from the Harbor Management Plan and the Harbor Master Department.
Okay,
So this is the final piece for the approval for the new system.
I'll be the dumb one and ask for an explanation of flupsy.
I'll do my first stab at it, but I think Paul here from ARC could give you a
We're all
lot
watching the
more,
Emperor with no clothes on and nobody wants to admit.
a lot more scientific explanation. But actually, Paul, if you wouldn't mind, please, I would.
Smart move,
it's
John.
The
Smart
service to Paul and ARC.
I wasn't going to take a crack at
Know
it.
your limits, man. Know your limits.
It is a public meeting, we have to kind of explain what we're talking about.
Hi, I'm Paul Wittenstein. I'm the general manager of ARC. So a flupsy is a floating upweller system. Inside the building on the Herring River, we have land-based upwellers or building-based upwellers. They're just tanks that we run raw seawater through with juvenile shellfish. The floating system basically looks like a 20-foot by 8-foot floating dock. And underneath the deck, there's silos, little compartments that hold shellfish, and we kind of circulate water through it. So from the surface, it looks like a dock. Underneath it, we can put a couple million oysters and clams in it.
I thank you for that.
Yeah, you're very welcome. Yeah.
At this point, I could ask for any public comment relative to the request. Anybody out there in TV land?
Got one coming up, Mr. Chair.
We have an in-person person.
Jeff Lang, resident of West Harwich. I support all aquaculture in Harwich. The more we do it, the more we clean up the water. So it needs help. It'll be a long time before any of the septic systems that get connected to sewage, that sewage still translates to nitrogen in our rivers. Aquaculture helps. Thank you.
Great. Isn't that, your sweatshirt, isn't that a place that's right next to Harwich? If you were defining it to,
Share some of the water.
if you were defining it to your off-Cape friends, it's like, yeah, it's right near the elbow, it's near Harwich. Poor wardrobe choice for tonight.
The Harwich Port sweatpants didn't fit.
Just saying. Anybody out there who might want to comment?
Mr. Chair, motion to close the public hearing.
Second. Moving seconded to close the public hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? It's unanimous. All right, deliberations for the board. Anyone have any comments about it? Or make any motions towards it?
Just a few questions, if I could, Mr.
Yeah,
Chair. I don't know if it's for John or Mr. Wittenstein, but again, I'm in full support of this. I'd like to understand, though, how far out do the 3 floats move into the channel?
John Harker, Harbor Master again. Paul and I surveyed and we looked at actually where this is going to be coming out from the shore side. And when you look at the actual building, it doesn't intrude into the channel any further than the building. It's actually recessed a bit. So you're in waters that are unnavigable and that aren't going to, again, impede at all. That was probably my biggest concern when I went to the waterways, on top of where the mooring placements are going to be, being that it's 4 and he previously has 2.
So thank you for that, and I understand that they don't impede the navigable water. But can I get a value on, how wide are the floats each? They 4 feet wide?
You can't be heard there.
Yeah, so it's, the way the system will be 3 flupsies. Each flupsy is 8 feet wide, 20 feet long. So it'll be a total of 24 feet wide, 20 feet long. The building itself is 27 feet out from the shore, so it'll be tucked in by 7 feet. With, the scope on the mooring, it still shouldn't go beyond the edge of the building into the channel.
Okay, and they're not connected to the building in any way? They are supported
No, they're supported by the moorings.
by the moorings
Yep,
only?
Yep.
Yeah, I think this is great. Wholeheartedly in support of this for many, many reasons. Thank you.
No, I think it's a great idea. The only thing, Paul, I do notice on the flopsy on the other side, it moves with the currents and stuff. But, really, I guess that really won't make a big difference as long as it doesn't go out into the channel. So, and I imagine if you made the mooring lines a little bit tighter, they'd sink. So anyways, I just think it's a great idea, so.
Anita?
No, I don't have anything to say, but this is, to me, it's been a good project, but thank you very much.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion to amendment to the harbor management plan for the requested 4 working moorings on the Herring River to support a floating upweller system from the Aquaculture Research Corporation.
Second.
It's moved and seconded to approve the request.
No additional comments.
Hmm?
No additional comments by me.
Okay. So it's been moved and seconded.
I'm going to ask a question just for my own interest.
Sure.
And if John could come up to the mic. I'd like to know what the amendment specifically is. What is the specific change we are voting on tonight?
Yeah, John Harker, Harbor Master again. It's just an addition of the 4 moorings to the Appendix C. So we're just adding and assigning numbers to those moorings. So that's the only amendment. There isn't any other.
No other change
No
other
other
than adding
changes.
the 4?
Just, adding 4 moorings and assigning them mooring numbers.
Excellent. That's all for me. Thank you.
I have no questions. There's a motion on the floor to accept the amendments. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? It's unanimous.
Thank you.
Thanks. Presentations now. Update on the downtown corridor improvements of Main Street, EDR Engineering. You did stay.
Good evening.
Hi.
Good evening, Lynn Cooper. I'm here with Russ Camp from EDR. And we're here to talk about the Main Street Corridor project. As you know, there's been several studies done throughout the years. I remember there was a huge one done back in 2000. A lot of great ideas, and then no funding and nothing happened. There was another study done, I think in 2010, 2012 vintage, with similar outcomes. A lot of good ideas and nobody to pay for it and not the palate to go after it. We think we have some positive things to share with you this evening. Want to get some feedback on where to go and some possible funding for it. With that, I think I'd like to turn it over to my colleague Russ here.
Thank you, Link. As Mr. Hooper said, my name is Russ Camp. I'm the practice area leader with the firm Environmental Design and Research. And we're here tonight to present the introduction of the Downtown Corridor project. One of the real reasons that we're here tonight is we want to present the scope of work, but we want to hear from the board what's on your mind about this area. As an engineer that lives and works on Cape Cod, I've worked with several other communities on downtown areas, and I've obviously have certain things that I've run into and that I've seen out there. But for the board, if it's appropriate, Mr. Chairman, through you, I would like to hear input from the board members as we get towards the end of the presentation. It's fairly brief, so move relatively quickly through this. Next slide, please. Oh, that's the, okay, thank you, Lynn.
I can push the button.
Thank you. Our project team working on this, the engineering consulting firm is Environmental Design and Research, myself, Jamie Villette, the project manager, and our other staff members, designers, engineers. Obviously working closely with the town of Harwich. Link is a great resource, knows the history of the area. And then also working closely with the Cape Cod Commission. They're a really good resource to have when it comes to all things transportation. As part of this project, we're going to be developing 2 concepts after we get feedback from the Select Board and also from the public. One concept is going to visualize the requirements for this project to meet the Massachusetts Department of Transportation Improvement Program, the TIP program. And that has certain criteria for that funding, and then we'll show another alternative or another concept that will try to encapsulate all of the feedback, all of the comments and concerns for that area. But both Steve Tupper and Dave Nolan are excellent to work with at the Cape Cod Commission. So tonight, here's our agenda. I'll run through slides. Agenda items 1 through 5, and that open discussion is when I'll ask the board for some feedback. We did put 5 specific questions into the presentation. We don't need to ask each board member all 5 questions. Really, what are your biggest concerns, thoughts, comments for this area of town? For the project overview, the area that we'll be looking, it's focused on Main Street. Our western boundaries are going to be the intersection with Sisson Road, and that's also where the Safe Routes to School project that Link mentioned abuts the project. And then on the east side, we are looking just past the intersection of Oak Street. And again, is to look at this downtown corridor and, to address the comments of the board and to make the both functional and aesthetic improvements that downtown Harwich is deserving of. Work completed to date. We did an initial survey where we went out and surveyed the topographic features, property lines, things of that nature. That was over the winter time. In February, we met with Cape Cod Commission, met with the town to gain a lot of input on the TIP funding and the required project elements. We slightly extended the scope of survey just to tie in some other areas towards the east and the west. And then here we are, May 2026, with the first select board meeting. The next time you see us up here, we will have 2 concepts that we're showing you. Next slide. Yep. So I'm not going to read every word off these boxes here, but the main takeaway is that the TIP funding does require certain design elements. I'll give you one for example, a 10-foot wide shared use path. So we're all familiar with right outside downtown on Main Street. So what I can foresee happening is a concept that meets the TIP funding with the requirements, but there may have to be some compromise. For example, if we want to keep all the trees on the sidewalk and max out parking on both sides, but we want to make this TIP funded, that 10-foot wide path may impact parking, may impact trees. And this is just a for example. We haven't put it on paper, but we want to be understanding that to meet the TIP fund, there is some fairly hard criteria. That's a big deal because with all these projects that we work on, the first question is usually, are there grants available? Is there funding? How do we pay for this? Sewer, right? Everywhere we look, every town's putting in sewer. It's not cheap. You have other infrastructure, other buildings and facilities, so obviously we want to look to come up with a design that could potentially be funded, but if for some reason there's a deal breaker with the layout of the criteria that meets the TIP program, we still want to make sure that we're satisfying ADA requirements and the other requirements for a downtown area.
If I may, 1 second.
Sure, go ahead.
The work that was done in Dennisport a few years ago was through the TIP program, funded by the state. Town had to engineer it and everything. We have the Dennis Howich, I call the West Howich TIP program, that you might have seen has been awarded to CC Construction. They've been laying out, you see stakes out there. Construction will probably begin in the fall in earnest. We have brick sidewalks, period lighting on that, incorporated into that project. I kind of envision the same sort of things that we might be able to incorporate into Harwich Center, if we get some traction with the tip. Slacking,
So
huh?
it's a good transition into our next, where we can actually start talking about some of the improvements. So really, when we talk about improvements, in my mind, I break those into two major categories: functional and aesthetic. Functional improvements are the widths of your sidewalk. Do you have straight sight lines? Do your crosswalks line up? Do you have the proper ADA infrastructure in place? Aesthetics is more for an out-of-town resident that comes to Harwich for the first time. What does it look like? For example, now we have a few different types of sidewalk materials. We have asphalt, we have concrete, we have brick. You know, obviously, we want to pick a uniform decision and move forward. As Link alluded to, a lot of the towns do favor the brick sidewalks. So a combination functional and aesthetic is, okay, great, you know, if the direction pulls us to brick sidewalks, that serves the purpose of, as long as it's 5 feet wide for your ADA standards. But then from an aesthetic standpoint, how do you arrange the bricks? Do you do a soldier course in the front? Do you do a herringbone pattern? One of the towns we worked in, we got into different patterns of bricks in different areas. So there's two sides to these improvements, and obviously to keep and enhance that existing character of downtown, you know, we do want to keep in mind the aesthetic side of things too as we're making our decisions. So summary of the existing conditions, the pedestrian network. And these are some of our observations that we've made while we're out there, and we're looking forward to hearing from the board. The sidewalk has several different materials. Typically on Cape Cod, there's three main types of sidewalk: asphalt, concrete, and brick. And then with each of those three types, you can have stamped asphalt, stamped concrete, porous asphalt, porous you know, it starts going to several different options. But we do want to try to pick something that's uniform. Link mentioned he likes the bricks. That is tip funded, well,
Link didn't say that.
Link mentioned that the downtown dentist that was funded.
Link said it was incorporated into the project.
Was incorporated.
Don encourages you not to use your names in the third person as you're talking.
Understood. Mr. Chairman. So the pedestrian network, we obviously want to take a look at the sidewalks, make sure that they meet ADA standards, they're uniform. Several of the curb ramps currently don't meet standards. The crosswalk visibility and placement, some of them are at angles, they could be improved upon. There's no dedicated bicycle facilities, for example. There's no dedicated bike lane or anything of that nature. We do have this great Old Colony bike trail right parallel to Main Street. So whatever improvements we do on Main Street, we also want to enhance the connectivity. Is there a safe way to link the two of them, whether it's through bike or pedestrian wayfinding, things like that. Roadway and geometry operations. We do want to take a look at, and I was just looking at the photograph there of some of the, what's out there now with the red painted on the asphalt. I understand that, has that been, and maybe the board can help, has that been an improvement? Have you seen folks generally following, staying outside of those lines there?
They're basically scuffing it off.
Driving over it?
Yep,
Right.
especially on Oak Street.
Understood. So that's these are the areas when it comes into determining, you know, the final width of the drive lanes, the turning radius, sight lines, things like that are the areas that we can improve upon there. If the red paint isn't doing the job as well as it can be, is there another alternative that we can put in there to help meet some of the goals of this project? We want to look at the existing infrastructure, not just on top, but also underneath, you know, if there's any drainage issues or anything. I don't believe there's any flooding out there now. But
It's all antiquated and would be replaced.
if we were, you know, we've seen it in other towns, you put down final paving in a downtown area, then a year later, someone's cutting trenches into it to replace a catch basin or a drain line, something like that. So we do want to take a look at the underground infrastructure as well. And then really the streetscape itself and the village character. What amenities, what features, what things will add to that? Lighting, landscaped areas, green space, you know, is there an opportunity for these elements to be introduced into the project? Next slide, please. So in our heads, for the conceptual design approach, where we're going with this is, A, we want to establish the framework of the area. That means we want to confirm the right-of-way, the survey limits throughout downtown. Working in other communities, I would not be surprised to find areas of encroachment once we pin down the accurate property lines, whether that's vegetation or private property that tends to come over the property line, whether the private property owner knows or doesn't know. We see that a lot in downtown areas, but we do want to make sure we define the actual limits of the right-of-way. We want to build a connected and accessible pedestrian network, and that's done through a uniform width sidewalk, crosswalks that all line up. You have proper sight lines where you're not having to peek too far around a corner, things like that, but you do want to have a downtown, especially with the summertime and the amount of traffic that's down there. We do want to try to make it as pedestrian-friendly as possible. With the Old Colony Rail Trail right behind us, we do want to support that multimodal mobility. We want to increase the functionality of the street itself, whether it's for pedestrians, bicycles, and how do you tie those two areas together on the east and west flank of the project, being Oak Street and, blanking on me.
Sisson?
Sisson comes from the south, and it was Route 124. Yeah, so from the
Sisson,
Sisson
124.
to Oak Street.
Tomato, tomato.
Also known as Pleasant Lake Avenue.
Enhance the village streetscape. This is where we want to try to adopt a theme for the downtown, whether it is something that we want to look at that brick sidewalk, if there's a certain style light, what type of curbing, is it probably likely going to be a granite, is it a rustic granite, smooth cut granite, there's different options, and we can certainly provide examples or show examples in our conceptual designs when we come back in front of the board. And then lastly, what improvements can we make to the stormwater management that's currently out there? If there is antiquated drainage, we want to be looked to replacing that just to minimize any future road openings when this project does take place. Next slide. So this is a good point to pause, and maybe, Mr. Chairman, if we could ask you to provide, yourself or the other board members' feedback for this area, whether these questions directly or just general thoughts that you have.
All righty, Pete, start with you. You want to end with
You
you?
want to start with me?
You want to end with you?
Yeah.
I'll bet you Jeff
Let's
says
get
the
something
same
more
thing.
productive by
Is
the
Jeff
other
going to say the
members.
same thing?
Well, I
One
don't
of
know,
you's
but
gotta
I
be
I have a
penultimate.
list over here, so however, heads or tails?
Heads.
One of you is going to be penultimate, so let's start with you.
I'll start. Thank you, and thank you both for being here, and Russ, good to see you again. I say this not tongue-in-cheek. I say this in all seriousness. Whatever we do, if anything, we have to maintain whatever trees are left. It is a beautiful corridor with the trees, and I don't want to have a thoughtless process of designing everything with the fact that we're going to be removing trees to get it done. I'd like to be able to incorporate them, and you've mentioned many times the aesthetic side of things, the bricks, the trees, and it's such a charming little short window of Harwich that I grew up on. So it means quite a bit to me. My grandmother lived on Park Street, I played at Brooks Park, this is where I was, right here. So in no particular order or importance, I know Pete's going to agree with me on this one. I really love the orange can for the crosswalk with the crooked sign on it. I think if we're going to be able to do anything, let's get rid of the orange cans. And, in the picture, there's a picture of an orange can with, in one of your photos. I think it detracts.
On the covers of these two cans.
It's on your existing conditions summary.
And
I'll tell you, half the time it's tipped over.
It ironically doesn't leave you enough room in the summertime to pass it without knocking it over.
Yeah, so when you talk aesthetics, simple fix, but could be all that much more charming.
No construction barrels.
Yeah, I think that would be going a long way. Okay. no particular order. Where the Exchange Building was, the green space there on the corner of 124 Pleasant Lake and Main Street, I'd like to explore if there's a way to improve that just a little.
I believe that's designated as a park area.
That, okay?
That is already designated, so that would have to remain and maybe enhance.
Enhanced, okay, great. A large number of kids leave the high school, walk into Harwich Center to go to a store and get some food or go to the library. I think it's important that we really delineate those crosswalks, because that's a real tough spot to cross. Crosswalks on both ends of Old Colony, right? So where they intersect with Oak, and where Old Colony intersects with Oak, crossing over to Brooks Park, and then where you cross over Route 124 from Old Colony.
That's outside the scope of
I
this
know it is.
project.
I know that. I know. I'm just making my point clear that if there's anything that can be done with those two crosswalks, maybe making them more visible. I understand it's outside the scope. I'll continue to move forward. I just figured I'd throw it out there.
If I may, Mr. Chair? Sure. We have a separate TIP project that has been approved by DOT for 2028, 2029, that will reconstruct the Old Colony Rail Trail and realign all the critical intersections.
Thank you. Okay. How about, I know this
It's a
board.
$7 million project, by the way.
All right, thank you. I know this board has talked for a couple of, maybe a year and a half now, about extra parking on Main Street for the vendors and the businesses. So I don't know where, I think you and I have talked about that briefly, Link, over the last year, so.
Yeah, I'm gonna cover that.
Okay, you're gonna cover that one. I'm almost there. It would be really great if we could reduce the congestion at certain times by having a left turn lane on Bank entering Main. Bank Street can get pretty backed up, and so can Route 124 during 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock business hours coming into Main Street from Route 124. So, right where this can is.
Through you, Mr. Chair, would you mind just mentioning the last one?
Yeah.
I know,
So-
left-hand turn.
So you've got.
Corner by the library.
Yeah,
Used
and, go ahead, sorry, Link.
There used to be a cheetah lane there. This alleviated the cheetah lane so people could make a right, or the left backs up. Jeff, whatever's gonna be designed has to be designed to MUTCD code as well as Chapter 2 of the design manual. So a lot of what is gonna be contingent upon what the actual right-of-way is out there and what can be fit in that will meet those parameters. When you're taking state and federal money, you have to build what is approved by them.
You asked for a wish list,
Yep.
a Christmas list, I'm giving it to you.
Well, that might be doable. I don't see why not. It'd have to be formalized, but
Sure.
I'm saying it has to meet engineering standards or it can't be done.
I don't know if it does or it doesn't, that's why you two are here. I'm gonna ask for my Christmas list, and it includes 2 turn lanes. Coming up from Bank Street to Main Street, and Route 124 into Main Street. Yeah, that's it for me now. I'll step aside for a little bit, and maybe come up with a couple more, thank you.
Mark?
Sure. Thank you for coming. Jeff mentioned not cutting down any trees. The streetscape didn't mention any new tree plantings, and you look at some of the historic photos of, and maybe you do have it, but I didn't see it. You look at the historic photos of Harwich Center, they have a lot of nice shade trees. And when you're out there during the summer, it's bare. It's like summer in the city, with all the concrete. So I'd like you to consider that, if possible.
Sure.
It's just so little space there. You mentioned a shared 10-foot width. What is that a sidewalk?
For lack of a better term, it's
So-
a multi-use, but yes.
But it's a sidewalk. And I'm just concerned about how much space do you have if you're gonna have a 10-foot sidewalk? I heard you're trying to do something about bicycling and then parking. How do you do it?
And you're on my thought process exactly. So that shared use path, the 10-foot wide, that could be used for pedestrians and biking.
So you could have a bike rider on, so to speak, the sidewalk?
Yeah, just like, for example, if you looked out back behind Town Hall, the rail
Okay.
trail, I actually just walked out there, and that's about 10 feet wide
Okay.
before the meeting. But it raises a very good question. We have existing buildings on each side. We have a 10-foot shared use path. We may or may not have a shoulder. We have parking. Then we have a 10 or 11-foot drive lane, then another 10 and 11-foot drive lane, then more parking, then another sidewalk on the other side. Is that all going to fit within 60 feet?
Well, that,
And we won't, until we look at it, so
You look
that's,
at-
and that's just foreshadowing the future. You know, if it's, you know, we have to have this tip funded, then there's gonna be likely some elements that may not meet the character and the everything on every single wish list. Hence, the development of the second conceptual alternative that will look to capture as many of these wish list items that we truly can. But we would look at, you know, for example, we really like looking at new trees, tree boxes for stormwater. So where we can do, you know, new trees, and any place we can really fit them in. Worked on a project years ago in downtown Wareham where they replanted all new trees up and down each side. And springtime is beautiful. It breaks up that heat engine or the heat island effect, and you
Exactly.
just have
Yeah.
all the asphalt there. And
yeah, I think it would make a big difference, and it would reflect the history of that street. I think that's, state funding. Would state funding, this is maybe more for you, the DPW commissioner, would that cover? I'm giving you a-
promoted or something?
I just made it. Would the state funding cover all of this, or do you anticipate the town having to come up with some money for this?
The TIP projects typically require the municipality to fund the design and any right-of-way acquisition, and then the state and federal funding pays for everything else, including construction through PS&Es, every bit of it. They award the contract, the construction contract, oversee it to its completion.
So it's a good deal for the town.
Much like we've had many other TIP projects, I rattled off a few at the beginning of the meeting, and we have more. Sometimes DOT pays the Old Colony Rail Trail Modernization Project, as it's listed by DOT, the Old Colony Rail Project, was completely funded by DOT. So we didn't even have to come up with engineering money, and they've advanced this to a 10% threshold at this moment, and are gonna be designing, you know, working on the design, paid for it completely. Where normally we would have to come up with that and figure that would probably be $400,000 or $500,000 worth of engineering that they're doing on the Old Colony Rail Trail on behalf of the town of Harwich. So this would be, we'd have to engage a consultant to design it to DOT standards. Once it's accepted by them, then the project becomes theirs.
How much money would it cost the town to do the design, do you think? Rough idea?
Final, so the good news is with this process, this covers the existing topographic survey that will be used in the final design, and one of the two final concepts will hopefully be chosen to move to the next element. So those would have to be done as part of the final design, which you're doing now. You're looking, this construction project, depending, you're between probably $1 and $5 million, just because I don't have a lot of the details right now. It's hard to really, I
Well,
wouldn't,
that's helpful.
I wouldn't see it being as, maybe not as
He
high
means
as
construction that much.
Yeah, yeah.
construction,
Yeah, yeah.
so.
And that's paid for by the feds of the state.
That's correct.
If you get grant funding,
Okay.
yes, if you get that. Engineering design is typically 10 to 15% of what construction costs are, so you're probably looking around 50 to 100,000 to do a final design after this, somewhere in that ballpark.
Okay.
There are a few other avenues for funding. In Provincetown, we were successful getting a MassWorks grant to reconstruct downtown. They had a number of, that's an economic-based grant. So for this to be competitive, if there's any open storefronts or any business property in this corridor that doesn't have a owner or a business in it, or if there's other ways to promote an economic benefit, that gets into a little bit of crafty grant writing, which we've done some of that in the past. So there's a few other programs out there, but really the TIP program is kind of the core one that funds this sort of project. at least the other programs are not contingent on, you know, the 10-foot wide, you know, you just have to meet the local standards and ADA rules. Even in Provincetown, we got a waiver to go from 5 feet to 4 feet for the sidewalks, just because it was so congested there.
And the Cape Cod Commission will help us with this project and help us to gain traction with the TIP program. That's why we've had very early intervention with them and view them as a partner in this.
And ultimately, at this point, you know, the only way we're moving forward with this project is if we get one of those grants. If either it's through the TIP or through a MassWorks opportunity like that, we're not envisioning this going to town meeting for funding at any time.
I just have kind of, simple. In my way of thinking, I think you're trying to mirror this like we did in Dennisport. Is that correct? Mirroring.
Yes.
So parking on one side, no parking on one side.
We don't know what'll fit yet.
Okay,
Honestly, it's a little premature. That's why we're here gathering what your wish lists are.
right.
I know we have a combined space,
Right.
and we'll try to fit whatever elements the board deems important and what we get from public outreach meetings to fit it in as best you can, but still qualify in meeting DOT standards.
For the space that we have right there.
And I'm assuming that, let's put it this, for all the other towns, I've never worked for a town that says we have too much parking. Can you get rid of a few spots?
Yes.
It's always, you know, that maximizing parking, so that's already on the forefront of our brains looking at this, you know, likely be parallel on each side.
Okay, that was my question, but thank you very much.
I'll throw us off the rails. So, Link, you mentioned in roughly 2000 and 2012, this thing was this project was investigated, and it didn't get off the ground. I'm curious, who initiated this iteration of the project?
Why we're here currently?
Yeah.
I think the former administrator had a couple of articles from year to year, beautify Harwich Center, do something with sidewalks, and that morphed into what we're here today.
Okay.
And my first thought was, given the pressures of ongoing sewer work, I think the palette for a $3 to $5 million Harwich Center project is probably pretty low to fund it. So let's position this so we could qualify for for the TIP program, like we have many other projects in town.
Understood, and I appreciate that. And I'm certainly not opposed to trying to utilize the TIP funding criteria. However, well, I guess I'll backtrack and say I'm always interested in getting some of our tax money back from the state and from the feds, because that's what it is, right?
Yes, sir.
It's not their money, it's ours. But I'm not going to do it at any expense. So, you know, you alluded to the TIP funding. One of the criteria was the 10-foot path that we talked about already. So if it's not feasible, then that knocks us out of the TIP funding formula?
No.
No.
I
don't know.
I probably have more TIP experience than you, brother. No. So DOT has their wish list as a starting point, and then you can apply for design exceptions based upon the physical constraints that may exist. Design exceptions are becoming harder and harder. You might have heard complete streets, and that's what they say initially. Everything you put on the TIP needs to meet. I have had success. You can see right now, we have a sidewalk on Route 28, their infrastructure, going in on one side of the road. More like a footprints program that I've not seen. It took a long time to get to that. But I'm saying you can get traction. It's not just a deal breaker. The 10-foot multimodal path, they tried on our Safe Routes to School, which was supposed to be a remove and reinstall 5-foot sidewalks on the triangle.
2 years ago.
They all of a sudden came around and, oh, we got 10-foot multimodal paths. I'm like, whoa, back up here. And we went up the food chain at DOT. We got a public informational meeting, okay, because my opinion was if you're going to force that down, it doesn't meet the character of Harwich. That's a quick way to kill the project they wanted to see done. And the public feedback they got from that reduced it to 5-foot sidewalks on Main and Sisson with an 8-foot multimodal on South. So there is some negotiation, some wiggle room, but no, they don't just hand out design exceptions. You got to make a real solid case.
And I would just add that going through this process, by, starting with showing that 10-foot wide path, and if it looks horrifically ugly and we get eviscerated by the board and the public, we have to demonstrate that to DOT. You have to make that attempt the first time and go through this process, so.
And without getting too deep into this, what are some of the other high-level criteria that we may be looking at, to achieve that TIP funding? You said there's a list of criteria, other than the 10-foot multimodal path.
Well, you start with the complete streets, which says sidewalks and bike lanes on both sides of the street.
I can read a few, I have a couple here. Just for example, designs must support walking, biking, and transit, not just vehicles. Multimodal accommodations, required projects must include safe, ADA-compliant pedestrian facilities and appropriate bicycle infrastructure, including, for example, separated bike lanes, shared youth paths, or buffered lanes. Shared youth paths width is minimum is 10 foot for two-way traffic. There's safety criteria for lane widths, geometry of crossings, and traffic calming measures that reduce crash risk and support vulnerable road users. So there's a bulleted list of items that they, in the design manuals.
And I appreciate that. Like I said, I'm not looking to debate each one, but just good to have an understanding, because again, I don't think I'm willing to support it at any expense or at any concept that the Commonwealth deems appropriate. And I'll be the outlier here, I'll be the curmudgeon that I usually am. I think brick sidewalks are a horrendous idea, and not that they don't look great, I think they look wonderful. They don't last, they're terrible. It's probably one of the worst designs for a sidewalk that I could ever, conceive or that I've walked on myself. But again, that's my one opinion. And the other thing that kind of drives me crazy, and not just in Harwich, but any community, when you go through a certain section of town and whatever this half-mile stretch is, and it has, a certain sidewalk and period lighting, and then you go through the rest of the town, and it looks like junk. It just doesn't make sense to me, right? And I know some people say, well, you gotta start somewhere, but we never finish, we never go to the next thing. I can remember 20 years ago sitting here, we put a whole different set of traffic lights in East Harwich when Stop and Shop was doing some project, right? It was the commission ransom back then, that they needed to do that. Nowhere else in town. Nowhere else in town do we have those posts, right? So it looks silly. It just doesn't make sense to me that we go through these exercises, and I know we're gonna do it in West Harwich. We're gonna have, brick sidewalks at period lighting. Great. And you're gonna drive through and you're gonna hit the bridge, and then it's gonna turn into Harwich, right? So I don't know why we do this. We're our own worst enemies. And again, I know I'm the outlier.
No, those are great, and through you, Mr. Chair, just one.
First, don't hold back.
I won't.
Just heard on the concern of the bricks. I ran into this with other towns too. What they do look to do, at least Mass DOT, is to put a 3-inch layer of concrete that go under the bricks now. So it stops the older sidewalks, like in front of the library now. You have a lot of roots and all sorts of things pushing the bricks up. And that was a huge concern in Provincetown for ADA accessibility. If you have, bricks or curbs that are set too high, is it a trip hazard? So we did use that, put the uniform concrete mat. Now it just adds a cost to it.
It adds a cost, and again, it's not a fix-all, because in the end, when water gets under those bricks, if they're not maintained properly, you have buckling in the winter, like we had a winter like, we just had. You're gonna have buckling, you're gonna have frost, you're gonna have freezes, and anyway, again, I'm not here to debate this with you. You've wanted some thoughts from us, and again, I'm not speaking for the board, I'm speaking to myself. I'm glad, I think Mr. Handler brought up the red paint on Bank Street on the main. Absolutely ridiculous that we have a backup on Bank Street trying to get the hell out of town on the main street. It's just foolish, and nobody, to I think the chair's point, nobody follows the red paint on the ground, because all it does is take away valuable and useful roadway. So, again, I think your whole design is independent of that. I am very much interested in some of the stormwater improvements that you talked about. There was a note here about chapter 2, but I lost my thoughts. I don't remember what the hell you were talking about. Something about chapter 2?
It's Mass DOT design manual. It dictates.
Oh, yeah,
how
right,
things need to
okay.
be designed.
So again, back to my point, and that explains my next note, we just need to be careful of those unintended consequences, right? So this is what they want us to do, and okay, great, it sounds good, we put it on paper, maybe it looks great, and in the end, it's not great, for whatever the reason is. You know, we're going, I don't know how far that up is Oak Street, you know, 50, 100 yards, and then what, right? Do we end the brick sidewalk there, and then it turns into that broken up, you know, cement? I guess, but, you know, it's just, so now we have a transition where somebody's gonna potentially fall or become a trip hazard. So those are the little things that I think of, when I think of projects like this. I'll get off my soapbox, and the only other thing I'll state to this board, and obviously to the town administrator, is clearly an opportunity, you know, going through TIP, but also with the new grant writer position that we're bringing on board, to seek out some additional funds to help with this. This is just one area of many in town that need to have a thoughtful redesign, looked at and discussed by not only this board, but those that have actual knowledge in this department, unlike me. Thank you.
Okay. I get to go? Couple things. One is, I'm sure you're not aware of this, but along the way with the same prior administration who talked about initiating this, there was almost 3 years' worth of conversation between the Masonic Hall and us. The COVID change wiped out the middle of town because we don't have a lot of parking. Municipal parking is at a super premium, and we took away the roadway parking. They were willing to cede, and I'm pretty sure that there's more than just the road layout involved. But some of the sidewalk in front of them is probably theirs because it's a really deep sidewalk. They were willing to share the pain with us if we could pull that sidewalk in. I'm not sure what the 5 feet would look like, to create indented parking for a couple of cars, just to have it there, because they also have tenants on the ground floor where there's absolutely no parking at all on that side of the street. I mean, there's like 2 parking spaces behind the buildings, and that's it.
This was the Masonic Lodge?
Yeah.
Building right on the corner.
And they're having a horrible time, you know, renting out those, you know, road-level stores because you'd have to cross the street, and as you pointed out, it's kind of dicey to do that. And by the way, speaking is probably the only person up here, or maybe in the whole room, that's actually been hit by a car walking across the Brooks Library. That is a problem. The sightlines are miserable. And Jeff is right, those tubs didn't do anything other than make it harder to navigate beyond them. They certainly didn't help anybody walking across the street. Maybe you and I could do a tag team with the flag and just stand on the side of the road. Now, there is one thing that won't take this grant or anything to do, and I've wondered for years why it isn't happening. You go to other places and it'll say two-way stop ahead or something. When people are dumping off going eastbound on Great Western Road to get to the center of town, when people are going westbound, there's no stop sign at all. Anybody who's traversing that area for the first time, they're on vacation, where it's already daunting enough because most people pass whatever it is they're trying to park at and then say, look, over there, and they'll make a turn with a right turn signal on to the left. So the last thing they're looking at is if there's a silver 8-sided sign in front of them. There is no stop sign coming into town heading westbound. But there is a stop sign by the funeral home heading eastbound. There is one at the top of Sisson Road. Even if there was a sign there, a subordinate sign to the stop sign that said no stop straight ahead ongoing traffic, or something that indicates that don't even begin to try it, because they don't have a stop sign. It's not they're running one, there isn't one. And that's been going on for years and years. I don't know how there haven't been more accidents, because we missed several opportunities. The bottom of Pleasant Lake Avenue and the beginning of Sisson Road do not match. And then when we built the addition to the Brooks Free Library, we sealed off the possibility of ever aligning Oak Street with Bank Street. And that was the end of that. So you have that same offset intersection problem in both of them. And you're never going to fix them. But at least you could fix that, and it wouldn't take the rest of this project to do. But I'm there with the paint colors. I mean, it's kind of useless. I was wondering if they were ever going to get around to redoing them anyway, because they're getting scuffed off. People, especially by Brooks Park's entrance, are making the turn as if the curb line is the guiding factor, not the painted roadway.
Well, and that's eventually what my curiosity is, because some of those red areas become either a curb line or a landscape area with proper design.
Careful what you wish for, because you're changing the geometry of the intersection then for buses and trucks.
Would have to meet, design.
No, I know that. I'm just saying that you could do that, but you're going to create a tighter radius. So I'm not sure if that's an improvement for the bus drivers.
Mr. Chair, I did tell them that you got hit by a car in front of the building.
That
there.
explains everything about me.
Did you tell him it was an
I
election year?
gave them that heads up. I said he did get hit by a car right there, so.
It's a near and dear to me
It was
conversation.
a matchbox, but
It
that's,
is. No, it was a real car,
it was a real car.
and they didn't stop.
Mr. Chair, real quickly if I could,
Sure.
and I'll be very brief. I oppose bike lanes, and I prefer smooth granite.
There you go. Largely, I agree with everything they were saying here, but again, you're right, parking is at a premium, and I'll tell you what, I haven't said it because I'm presuming that one would be subsumed by the other, but if we were offered the choice, I'd rather see, like, the tree boxes and growing new trees than those god-awful cheesy planter boxes that were put out there for COVID.
No, that would be more if we go the tree box route, that would be a discussion. The type of tree, the height, one that has roots that grow down, and something that would provide some
Yeah,
shade and break up the heat island effect.
As opposed to those, like, plastic-looking, horrible,
We can do better than that.
yeah, I hope,
Yeah.
because they were really ugly.
No,
Anybody
This
anything
has
else?
been excellent. With that, I think I have one concluding slide. Link, your job's not done yet.
But Pete is right, as you're doing this, is the multimodal stuff really almost always kills all this. I know that's why we did the rail trail. We did it before there was a Cape Cod rail trail, our part of that. And recognizing that, hey, we got this unused right away, and we do that. There's no roadway here. Most of the roadways don't even have a sidewalk, never mind the multimodal where we're gonna have the road and the bicycle and, it's great if you live in Newton.
Somerville, correct, yeah.
Yeah,
It's
I mean,
perfect.
it is not made for here.
Understood.
If they want to change the basic look and texture of the Cape, that's a good way to start.
Agreed. Next steps, this is really good feedback that we got tonight. We did want to have another public forum with residents and have a similar type of meeting where we gain their input. Then it's up to us to come up with the concepts, come back and represent, and we'll be going from there. So I'll work closely with DPW to set up the public meetings, and would probably look to get that over the next couple of months, but be in a position probably sometime right after summer to come back in front of the board with some concepts.
Great.
I'd also like to make clear that once you get on the tip, meaning it's been adopted by the committee,
It's gonna
ratified by the
outlive
MPO, you still are in a holding pattern for generally about 5 years. Now, this will be on the smaller side of project, and it's been my experience that if you have it designed and it's ready to go, that larger projects sometimes don't meet the criteria. They need to spend the money by September 30th, the end of the federal fiscal year. And if it's designed and ready to go, we've had luck in moving up in the pecking order. So I just want to think, even if you get it, it's going to take a while. That's my message.
And I'll certainly look for any other available grants that are out there. So,
Great. We always like free.
understood. All right, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Wait a minute.
Hard. Is it on this subject? Art? Is it on this subject? Is it on this subject?
It is on the subject.
Okay, so please, Russ, please stay. Okay, Link, stay.
Thank you. Art Bowden, Harwich. Just one little comment, sort of point of reference. I live right across the street from the project tomorrow morning. I'm in the house across the street from Chatham Road. That traffic is coming right into my living room, but thank you. We'll see how it turns out.
Hopefully not straight into your living room.
Well, let's hope not. I'm getting a little nervous about the project, but that's, okay. First comment was, if this is a public meeting, I didn't hear anyone say, does the public have anything to say? That's
There's
why
going to be a public forum relating to exactly the same subject.
So, yeah, this subject right now, we're just.
There's going to be a public forum that will have just that opportunity for the public at large.
Okay, then I'll sit down. Thank you.
All right. I misspoke. You can leave. All right. Facility usage fees and rentals. Kara.
So, Mr. Chair, after our discussion last week regarding the request for fee waivers from nonprofits, I had spoken with Kara over the last extra month, so this predates the request, but we had a number of facilities or a number of requests that have come in over the years that were for more than the single-hour rates that we have in place. So Kara took that and ran with a proposed rate structure that we're proposing this evening. And I'll turn it over to Kara to go a little bit more into detail, but what we have currently in place really does not work because it's a 1 hour rate and we don't have flexibility that we need for a number of different situations. Kara?
Good evening, Kara Mooney, Director of Cultural Affairs. So Jay said it clearly. The last time I was here in front of you for the change in the rate, it was 2 years ago, and that's when we went from 3 hours costing $100 to $100 per hour, which we still all agreed it was pretty ludicrous and that I'd be back, and here I am. So with that, you'll see a lot of structure added into this, and I'm going to kind of break it apart by room, so to speak, to just help facilitate it a little bit easier. Since one particular area, being the auditorium, is kind of the most sought after area, and it does have a few things that are very different than the other rooms. The biggest piece here is we've still included obviously municipal use being $0. We're not charging our town departments to use our facility. I will know that there are things that finance is working on in the accounting department to make that all copacetic and make sense. The one thing we don't have is a Harwich-based schools per hour fee, so we don't acknowledge anything for schools, and I'd like that for discussion. And that is simply, we are getting more asks for schools to use space, but specific to Lighthouse Charter School, which is why it says Harwich-based school. We want to be able to give them an opportunity to use like a gym, because they don't have one, and they've been trying to bring...
And before you go any further, because this subject keeps coming up, so that nobody out in TV land gets the wrong impression. The charter school is not some separate, distinct animal. It is under state law, a public school. So it is defined as a public school. It is no different from a school than the Monomoy School District is. Just so everybody's clear on that, it's not some sort of private school system.
Right. So the building of the Harwich-based schools was to appease towards any of our schools in the town. So any of our public schools, any of the schools, would be able to come rent the property. We have had an increase over the past year specific to the gym usage, but that is an opportunity we wanted to build in. Then the next is the nonprofit. So we have not had historically a nonprofit fee, so we wanted to be sure to build that in. And then for-profit would be anyone like ticket revenue generating individuals that are bringing in those special events. Then we still have a per hour fee, and then there's a special one for the auditorium, which is dance theater rehearsal and dance theater recitals. So oftentimes when we get any type of theater organization in or dance group in, they take anywhere, it could be 2 to 5 days of time in the auditorium space. And we want to be able to bill them specifically for their actual rehearsal dates, and then specific to when they have their general public or ticketed patrons in on recital dates. With these rates, they are, as far as comparison go to venue size, they are all within limit of what we have seen on Cape Cod. Really, there's no outfit on the Cape that can compare to what we have for a theater and what our capabilities are within the theater. So trying to do the best to look at outside the region based on my historical experience of working in event management and trying to be able to find the best venue price that would be for that. I still find it would be feasible for us to move this. We would still be able to move the needle forward with our rate structure and then revisit this again in the 2-year cycle that we're looking at doing kind of with our rates. Moving along as an overview of the other rooms, the rate categories stay the same. So municipal use, Harwich-based schools, nonprofits half-day, nonprofit full day, same for for-profit, then the per hour. On the library, there is a condition for art exhibit, so something that we have not charged for, which is for someone to host an art exhibit. And this is outside organizations that are coming to use the space. They're sometimes tacking into the walls. We have to repair it. We do have an art system in place that we try to encourage them to use, but we also know that some particular paintings and works of art do not hang well on that system. So they do have to use the hanging hooks that we actually do provide at the facility, but we obviously want to make sure we're maintaining a cost. Most of these art exhibits also come with an opening reception in which you get a lot of liquor license requests for, so we want to make sure we're capturing the fact that that is typically outside of our normal operating hours, so we want to capture that through a rental structure fee of sorts. Lastly, the other few things in there, just to put it in perspective, is a 3-hour and 5-hour rentals are inclusive of their setup and breakdown. So if someone's saying that they're in for a half day, they have to obtain that they can't go over that, or there's a per hour fee after that. Same within 5 hours. So if someone's loading in for a 5-hour event, typically that means they're loading in at 4 p.m. Their show could promptly start at 6 p.m. and then they're out the door by 9 p.m., for example. That would be a characteristic of a 5-hour rental or a full day rental. And some past historical events like CCYP did a Shape the Cape. They were there the entire day. That would have been a full day rental fee, predominantly under a nonprofit, as long as they can provide their valid 501c3, in which they would also have to do on top of every other thing that we ask for them. The other piece of offering is that we would offer production support, and this would be a contracted support, so it'd actually be billed out at $300, and that is simply, we have the opportunity of some outside contractors that can be hired if somebody is in need of having an additional production support. So rather than running the gamut and having everyone come in and just mess with our sound equipment that we've done oh so well to maintain, we have some individuals that are locally that we can actually hire, and we would build that onto the renters of the facility, and that would start at $300 an hour. They are still welcome within our booking procedures to still provide their own sound production support, but those individuals, like they have done previously, they have to get vetted by me, and we have to work through what they're either tapping into of our sound system or if they're just using their own system. The other piece of this is that custodial support and event management support would be billed at a rate of $45 an hour during event time. So typically, as most know, our events take place after normal operating business hours. So if anyone doesn't know, we do follow a town hall schedule. We are Monday through Friday from 8:30 to 4 p.m. despite the times that anyone has seen me in the building. I truly do not work 7 days a week nor 24 hours a day. And in order to make sure that we accommodate the fact that we have staff working outside of normal business hours, we need to ensure that we are putting that at cost. And $45 an hour will cover the cost for any what would be considered overtime or coverage fees of someone that's outside of those hours. Lastly, an additional room fee for all rentals are billed at a rate of $75 per room for each day of the rental. So we do have some multi-day rentals that come into the building, so their contract, so to speak, their agreement for rental services at the facility would start at the base rate. So if it's a for-profit using the auditorium for a full day, call it $1,300, and then each day after that, they're going to be billed additional rates going forward. And then the staffing rates would apply per day, and any other costs associated with production would also apply per day. So this gives us the ability to add on additional fees that we don't currently have. It gives us the ability to offer nonprofits fees, which we do not currently have. And we do bolster up the for-profit fees, so those individuals coming in. The one thing as far as our fields go, so we have our front field, rear field, and courtyard. Those are kind of in line in comparison with how the community center and the recreation department handle fees within the town, but also looking at how Monomoy handles fees, and then the other entities around us and other town use fee structures. Other than that, I'm happy to answer any questions and hear some feedback.
Questions?
A couple quick, easy ones. If somebody wants more than 5 hours,
Yeah, so we would bill at a rate of so if they're nonprofit or for-profit, we'd bill at the hourly rate.
above the
So,
5.
yeah, so right now, so above that. So if there's if they're calling it 6 hours, we're gonna be in there, we're gonna bill them that extra hour.
Okay. The auditorium with your dance and theater rehearsal and recital, I assume that those fees are per day?
Per occurrence, yes. So each of these fees would all be considered per occurrence unless we need to go into the per hour.
Define occurrence.
So for the dance recital rehearsal, if they schedule 3 rehearsals with us, that's their fee per rehearsal. And
Per
then for-
rehearsal.
Yeah, and then for dance recital, if they have 1 recital one day, a second recital a second day, it's per recital.
Okay. Probably no surprise to you, I'm glad you're sitting down, but I still find these fees to be too low. But with that said, I got a couple that stand out to me that just kind of make me question. So I'm gonna just focus on for-profit, because why pick on the nonprofits, right? But the gym, it's $300 for a half a day and $325 for a full day. So $25 increase to an extra 2 hours. And similarly, although a little bit greater, $175 to $225 for the front lawn and the fields, and again, the courtyards, a $25 increase, $125 to $150. Seems like not a drastic difference in cost from full day to a half day.
So I agree with you, but that is what I have found is in line and consistent with the way our fees are throughout the town. And I am happy to make it, honestly, I think either way. Our gym is a well-sought-after space, I will say that. I have multiple organizations constantly asking for space.
And so if I can interrupt, because I don't want to lose my thought, because I'm forgetful, and you're probably not. My concern with that is just that, right? So people want it, but if I'm going to rent it, then I'm doing for the 5 hours, even if I don't need it. Because it's going to cost me $25.
So
I can take my time setting up and doing whatever the hell I need to do.
Right, and that's a great point. So typically, anything has to be vetted, we just don't give it to them. So if we do find within their contract, we are essentially telling them this is what it is. And if they come back to us and there's pushback, for example, you know, if they're there for a 5 hour, at the end of the day, it also comes down to staffing. They're also going to be charged additional staffing fee. Do they truly want to spend 2 extra hours on a staffing cost? Yes, it's only $45 an hour, it's a great point, but it all comes down to that. So when, at the end of the day, someone comes, presents the event application, we will send them basically a quote back and say, this is what your event would cost you to be in the building or your program. And they can either go with it, or they can say, oh, no, it's too expensive. It's either way. But that's a great and fair point. I do agree with you that that certainly is where the rubber meets the road.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
No, I have no real questions, but thank you very much.
Sure. Nice spreadsheet. Green room, I didn't see any price for that.
Right, so traditionally, we found that the green room has not been served purposely on a public-facing situation. We have used it internally for intermunicipal use, and then it's pretty much tied to the auditorium. So if the auditorium is rented, the green room is part of it because it's a dressing room for the green room. So it's been a very difficult room to privately rent, and even if it has, it's been for a meeting purpose.
And the lower level?
The lower level no longer exists on this rate structure. It was actually within the license agreement procedures. I will say that we did not get anyone to bid on that space. However, I'm writing a brand new proposal to create a new program space right now. So there will be something forthcoming on that.
And the final question, what brought this about was the Association to Preserve Cape Cod. And I just did some calculations. I didn't know if that was a 3-hour rental or a 5-hour rental because they had the setup time. But if it was a 3-hour rental, because they use so many rooms. They're using 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6. So the 3 hour was $11.50, the 5 hours was $18.25. I'm just questioning nonprofits. Does that pricing deter people from coming in? Or you're saying your market research, this is a good deal, that we can expect a lot more business like this at these rates?
I would, based on my research and based on just conversations, I feel that anything that we're doing right now is going to be helpful towards our nonprofits. The biggest concern that has been in general is that nonprofits are obviously nonprofits for a reason, and they're trying to produce certain programs and events and resources for the community, whether it's just their base membership organization or for the public-facing community themselves. And the biggest need is, why are they offering this event at the end of the day? Is it a fundraising event for them, or is it something that is just bolstered part of their community? Like CCYP with a Shape the Cape Summit, that was a big membership-based organization for them. They didn't really get too feared on cost, but obviously as a nonprofit, we're all protective of that cost at the end of the day. My fear moving forward is not that it will deter anyone, it just sets our standard that this is what it is. I think that's where we have to look at what we're trying to accomplish here. At the end of the day, this is all new for the town of Harwich. This is all new for the Cultural Arts Municipal Building, is that we have not instituted a nonprofit rate structure before. So I think anything that we do now to set the precedent will only allow us to have a better future for nonprofit rate structures. With that condition, you also have these larger scale events that are coming into the building. So yes, you saw an application and they are asking for the entire building. So we have building-wide events, which is why I built in the $75 per room event. You also, on the other side, have to see how taxing that is, even if it is a higher rate. I'm a single-person department, so the person that is setting up every table and chair in that building is typically myself or my part-time custodian. So we have to look at how that cost really is outweighed. While it may seem as an astronomical cost, it truly is not, because we are taking anywhere between, could be 3 hours, call it 6 hours, sometimes 12 hours to get preset for an event, and those hours are extending into after business hours. So even though, again, on paper, it may look like a cost that some may not absolutely be able to obtain, it is a cost that we need to be able to do to be able to cover the end result of being able to make sure our staff can get paid for.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Carl, for being here. This is not an easy task, and I want you to know I recognize that. I've done this a little bit in my past, and it's not easy, and it takes a group of people to kind of figure it out and hit the sweet spot for a lot of things. If I may, Mr. Chair, I just want to ask a couple of questions that aren't related to the fees directly, but related to how the municipal building gets paid. How do they pay? Do they pay online? Do they pay a check to you? Do they Venmo Jen? How do they?
Well, the checks go to the town of Harwich.
Yeah.
Or online. So typically it's a check transaction. Sometimes they're mailed in.
Okay.
When we're working with members of the commission, so we've been doing a lot of work with either county or commission, it's a direct wire transfer, or it's online payment.
Okay. Do we have a refund policy in print somewhere?
Great question. So my answer would be no, and the reason for that is we don't collect payment until day of the policy is 14 days before, but typically if we know something's not happening on their end, it's day of that they show up with a check. There's nobody leaving the facility at an event if they have not paid.
Yeah, I would just urge everybody to think about if I'm booking something and I don't have to pay until I get there, I could cancel 3 days before, and that means you could lose 4 or 5 different, parties that wanted to rent. So I think, and not a discussion for tonight, but a discussion for the future.
So that's a great thing. So with the town of Plymouth, we actually had, our rates were very much higher than this facility, than what we're talking about.
Can you say that again?
It was a very different facility, Pete. It was a 1,500 seat auditorium, so unless we want to build one.
All right, anyway, I'm talking to you right now, Sharon, not Pete.
But I digress. So we had actually a non-refundable deposit that was instituted. It was $250. Obviously, with our fees, we would have to figure out what is that? Is it a percentage of the rental fee that we're obtaining? But it would be non-refundable. So in the event of a cancellation within a 14-day or a 30-day window, we can determine that clause. I am not aware of the town having a refund policy. I can certainly look at the other departments to see if there is a contingency in place. But how it was written is that if something is canceled on the town's behalf within 30 days, we will refund the money. So we experienced this a lot in COVID, actually. We spent
Sure,
a lot of time
sure.
giving money back. But on the renter's behalf, if they canceled less than that 30-day window, they would only be subject to a portion of that feedback. And then if it was within 14 days, they were not allowed at all to have that feedback.
And that's great. I think when you only have so many hours in the day to sell, right?
Right.
So I'd like to see something concrete in writing whenever someone books, so that
Yeah.
they understand what they're getting themselves into. So that's for that. How's the rental history right now? Are these rooms, the library, CAF, the gym, are they all spoken for pretty well into the future?
Pretty well. So we are increasing our rental. So I would say that is we're finding more and more people want to use the space. But the more larger events we do, that happens. So we'll run a large event, and then all of a sudden we have 10 to 12 more interested parties. We have found intermunicipally, as well as through the county and the commission and throughout the region, more municipal partners are interested in using the space as well. But we also are trying to increase to other nonprofits of come use our space. The for-profit, that's where we get into the concert productions and promoters, and that's an outlet that we're trying to explore. But the biggest piece of that is they want to come in the summer, and that is not something we are able to, I mean, we can do it, but you're going to be in a sauna while
Yeah,
doing
yeah.
that.
And also, just for my colleagues here, part of the reason we're doing this exercise is because of something I brought to the table as well, that I brought to the board 2 years ago, where I had a baseball coach who wanted to rent the back fields. And we never could wrap our arms around how to make that work for them, for us, for the community. So let's just quickly, if we could, I only have a couple of quick questions specifically about the grid. If we look at the rear field, for example, okay, we have a $50 based, for Harwich-based school per hour. But if they wanted to rent the back field for a full day, 5 hours, 7 hours, does that stay at $50 per hour?
Well, so there is a long-standing, predating me, that I don't know all the history, so maybe someone would be able to speak to it, is that there is an intermunicipal agreement between Monomoy Schools and the town of Harwich that they have unlimited use, the elementary school has unlimited use of the field during school operating hours. We are only to maintain it after that.
Okay, so if a Harwich-based school wanted to rent that for 5 hours on a Saturday, does it remain at $50 for 5 hours?
That is the way it's written now.
So as a nonprofit for 5 hours, that's a $30 an hour rate. I think we should look at that. Whether one goes up and one stays the same, or one goes, in my opinion, and I don't know how the rest of the board feels, but, taking care of the kids in the school system and what they're looking to do on our municipal property should be, I would say, the lowest rate there is. That would be my opinion. Now, I know Pete's about to throw his microphone at me, and that's okay. That's where the conversation has to come in. So I don't think that a Harwich-based school, if they wanted 5 hours, should pay $250 for the rear field, where a nonprofit would pay $100 less. Just something for us to discuss, something maybe for you to think about.
I think we're going to want to relook at the gym as well, so we can make some changes based on this feedback and bring
Yeah.
it back to the board for approval.
And I get it. Again, this is not easy to do. I'll also ask about the maintenance of the backfield, because typically that's like Beirut back there. It's not maintained.
That's one way to say it.
It's not cared for. It's willy-nilly. I can't, do we have a plan now to bring that up to at least minimum standard?
I will say that there is a working plan. Sean Libby and I have just recently spent more conversations about being more diligent about the property maintenance at 204 Sisson Road. in history. Like, it's just,
It's neglected.
it is.
And
I will
that's the
agree,
word.
but it is no fault of anyone's.
No.
It is just, everyone for quite some time had no idea what was going on.
Nobody was using it, so why spend the man-hours?
Right.
However, if it's gonna be put on the rental roll,
Right.
people should show up expecting a cut lawn
Mm-hmm.
and a field to play on that doesn't have huge holes in it.
I do know by preliminary conversation, there are non-cost effective ways that we can enhance certain things back there, but there will need to be a conversation that takes place about long-standing maintenance and groundskeep, so to speak, to make it attainable for future coming programs.
Yeah, and, you know, I played on those fields growing up, and they weren't in the best shape, but they were a lot better than where they sit today. I do have a concern about if you've got back-to-back rentals. You know, the liberties, some people would take, well, we have to clean up now, half an hour, but you've got to get it ready for the next person coming in an hour. How do we address that?
All vetted through the office, so we would evaluate each rental, and simply as we know if we have something that's building-wide and someone's asking for something an hour after that event takes place, it's not gonna happen. And we have the right to deny any application that comes in. We don't have to take it.
Yeah.
And simply put, you know, we've had to have those experiences, but we've also had back-to-back events that we look at logistically, can we make this work? And either we agree we can or we can't, and me being myself, the mouse, my pocket, and the custodian of can we make this happen? The other piece too is we evaluate what rooms are being used for those particular events and the occupancy of which those rooms are actually handling. We only have 88 spaces that you can park in, and if we have any other additional parking, it's on the field or it's on, you know, the rear field or the front field at the end of the day.
Yeah,
That's
and
backup parking. So it's not ideal situation, but we do have to take all of those items into consideration. Our Garden Expo this past weekend was an absolute fabulous event, but we also had T-ball during the morning, and it was a bit of chaos with parents coming in, trying to find parking, people coming to the expo. So it was a bit chaotic, but it worked. But historically, we have not had an issue. My whole plan would not be to have an issue, and that would be all through just processing the applications appropriately.
Yeah, and I think one of the deterrents you could use is, you know, if you go over your allotted time, you're supposed to be done by noon, and you're there at 10:15 or 10 past still cleaning up, you're hit with another fee.
Oh,
And that
yep.
fee would be exponential, in my opinion, and I think Pete would agree, a very high fee. Because we want you out of there so that we can move forward and do what we have to do with the room. I think that's it for me now, Mr. Chair, at least for now. Thank you.
Okay, you can stay for the after session with him. I have two things, but one is trying to put something to bed that just refuses to go to bed. Junior Theater. They have a need, which is why they lease the building on Sisson Road, to have a space to conduct classrooms like movement classes, dance classes, and other. They're also rehearsing behind the show that is up at that point. So typically they're like a 2-week run, and there's no place for them to rehearse. So pretty much all day long they're running classrooms and they're running, and that's in the summer. And they're also running the rehearsals at night for the play that's going to be coming up. Your building is not, this is no casting aspersions on anybody, but your building was not made, especially the structures and the way this is operating right now, did not contemplate somebody taking over the large part of your building for 90-plus days. I mean, is
Correct.
that fair to say?
Absolutely.
Okay, because I keep hearing that come up. They'd be happy. Sure, they'd be happy, except that I'm thinking assuming that the hit to them financially would be similar to the building that they're currently leasing, and it would not be. I mean, that would bleed into my second thought, which is I have experience in governance of both the HJT and the Chatham Drama Guild. You come out of a production with between $5,000 and $10,000 worth of profit, yippee, because that's about what you can contemplate. The cheapest rates that I've seen for play rights are $150 a performance. And then If it's a musical, you gotta hire musicians and a musical director, you hire a director. So at the end of the day, it's not, I know where Pete's coming from, but at the end of the day, financially, that doesn't fit into your paradigm for use of the stage. I see what you're doing. And that's one-off concerts and things like that, or a recital of some sort. But it really isn't structured effectively for any of the nonprofit theaters around here. I just want that out there, that it was never contemplated to be structured that way. Even the sound systems and everything, they were all upgraded. I will say I was the champion of the air conditioning at that point. It's like, what's the point when your biggest draw time is hot and it's uncomfortable to sit there? But and that gets me to the last things, because we'd agree on the first couple of parts. Over the course of a summer, like 94 days, something like that, like June, July, August, were you fully booked in the auditorium every day of the week, all 3 months of that?
During the summer?
This past year or the year before?
So we dabbled in, I would say twice a week, we tried various different events of various sizes. And it ultimately just wasn't working, so people would cancel last minute or change dates or push them out, and that was simply because of the conditions of the room that we're not able to move air. I will say, due to conversations I've been having with local promoters in the area that are trying to find new venues, we could bring in high-quality regional and national talent to the facility. If we were proper cooling conditions, at least 2 to 3 shows a week, all summer long.
Okay.
Guaranteed.
That covers a couple of points that I was going to cover. Even 50% off of zero is still zero. And we haven't, everybody here is assuming that we've got a waiting queue outside the building for this, that 5 people want the same date for the auditorium consistently. I don't see that that's going on.
So, no, to your point, Mr. Chair, no. It's not like we have a waiting list, and it's not like 5 people are asking for the same one date. Is there a lot of fielding inquiries coming in? Absolutely. But I am also one person and can only handle so many. So sometimes these get fielded out of our facility because simply I might just want a Saturday or Sunday off.
No, and I get that. It wasn't supposed to be punitive.
No, absolutely. And I think more so for folks to know, like, that's the situation we are in. We are getting the requests, but we can only handle so many. And to your point about the theater, we, through the cultural district, collaborated with another theater production that was kind of getting their feet under them for 2 productions.
I saw that. Yeah.
It was extremely taxing, extremely difficult, in the sense of it took 4 days for rehearsals. We had 3 shows. It was a lot of hours on the building, a lot of time spent trying to curate those. They were wonderful programs and wonderful events, but it is not something we are truly set up and designed to handle. And
Or was
at
it
some
something
point,
that was your objective, actually, from what I recall from where it started?
that is right. And that's not our objective. It is not in our best interest right now to have that as our objective. I think down the line, it is available for future conversation. I look at it this way. We've been doing this for 3 to 4 years now. We're kind of getting into our toddler stage where we're still growing and we're still learning how this works for the town and what is the best for the town. And that is something, as anyone comes in, we ask them, where are you from? How did you hear about us? What brought you here? And then if it's a local, what is something that you'd like to really see here? And that is extremely important. We do it on a daily basis, and we're constantly talking to the groups and organizations in town to find out what is it that everybody truly wants, so that we know what is truly our 10-year plan look like.
And you couldn't have summed up better what I was going to say at the end, which is, this is a work in progress. I mean, it's not set in stone. We keep revising it, and it keeps getting reviewed as per how the use of the building is going. That's why I wanted to bring up the other thing, because we got to drop that. It's not an area that was a growth area for your building. As a matter of fact, it would stunt your growth if HJT wound up taking over 50% of the footprint of the building for an entire summer. And that would be at night, too. So.
Well, I made the promise early on that I would continue to work at it and continue to come back with rates that are appropriate.
We appreciate that.
And that it will be the continued promise, so.
That's why these 2 guys are sitting on the opposite ends of the table here.
That is something that will always come back.
So that said, we listened to what the board had to say tonight. Let Kara and I do a little bit of work on tweaking some of the things around, the fields and the gym and the feedback that we got, and we'll present something to you at probably the next meeting.
Yeah, and don't go out feeling bad. You're doing a great job, and we appreciate the growth of the building, and the public has got to appreciate that there is a plan, that we're working off a plan to create some money. But the one thing I continue to say, though, having owned a store at one point, I used to have an argument with my partner at the time. Yeah, I could sell a gallon of milk at $25, except that my profit margin is not only not 500%, it's zero because I'll never sell it. So we do have to strike a balance between what everybody's capable of paying and what's reasonable to be able to charge to be able to recoup our costs. And I think you're doing a good job of that.
The nonprofit that we were talking about last week withdrew their request, so we don't have to deal with that
I
imminently.
understood that.
Wondering why it wasn't on the agenda.
But at least there's a step here. I've been talking for 4 years about a nonprofit rate. You have one.
Yeah, we're getting there. Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Now, I sent all of you the declaration of trust, but I'm going to wind up asking that we can discuss it tonight, but I'm going to wind up wanting to bring this back again at the next meeting we have, which is not next week, it's the week after that. In accordance with, there were two things that were happening. In accordance with the way we established the trust, we had a warrant article on, I think it was 2017, that adopted the provisions of Mass General Law to create a housing trust. We further described what its membership would be, and since we did it that way, we had to go back because we were altering the membership. So that was one thing that was going on. In accepting the Mass General Law, there were different ways of approaching this, which I haven't touched in terms of the governance. I mean, for instance, Falmouth elects their trustees. Some towns have all their select board as one and the same. They're the trustees and select board members. One thing that became a speed bump with the prior administration was specifying in this thing, which was not part of the town meeting warrant article. Let me say that, either this time or the first time when it was established, specifying what had been the Department of Housing and Community Development, which is now the Executive Office of Housing and Livable Communities. That's a mouthful. There's no need to specify that because it was being misinterpreted for the longest time. And what it wound up doing is closing down your options for projects. Most projects are constricted as to what level of area median income is capable of being utilized in a project based on what your borrowing source is. Like the CPC, you can't go over 80% AMI because their money is only good up to that level. So given that, and other sources like state or HUD have their own mandates, I would recommend, and I'll bring back a clean copy with this, that instead of it saying as defined by, this is in Article 2, as defined by the Massachusetts Executive Office of Housing and Livable Communities or successor agency, and in furtherance of, to just say moderate, to benefit low and moderate income households as defined by applicable state statutes and regulations, and in furtherance of this purpose, because I mean, you can only operate legally in accordance with the law anyway. But that takes out the inference that if EOLC decides that they'll only allow you to fund up to this much, even though the state might define affordable housing at a higher level than that, you couldn't do it with this citation in there. And that became a roadblock. And it became a roadblock on a number of things. I want to just see the trust have the flexibility that it would need in order to be able to meet the needs of the community and not to be stuck by an arbitrary percentage listed by the agency, because the Mass General Law has a number of different ways. They're even talking now about workforce housing, codifying that, which is above this level. The trust should be able to have some wiggle room so that whatever the state statutes at that time say, they should be able to pursue. Legally pursue. And there shouldn't be any handcuffs on them. The whole point is to try to make this an efficient process, not to do a gotcha, that you can't do anything other than 30% AMI, which I consider to be almost useless on Cape Cod. The 30% AMI type of rental, you could make more money working full-time at Stop and Shop than that. So, I mean, we're trying to house people who are working and who are unhoused right now. So, I mean, to the extent that we trap the trust into only being able to look at certain things, I would like to open it up, because the fact is, the trust meets in open meetings, and the trust has a fiduciary responsibility, because they're trustees for finances. They could buy property, they could flip property, aggregate, and when they see an opportunity that might be a little bit above, I don't want them to get trapped by, is this really what EOLC is saying right now, or is it in the court? I would suggest that, I mean, I can get a hold of Michael to see what the trust side is, and I've talked to Jeff before the meeting. I don't want to ram anything down anybody's throat, but I think if we're going to be doing this, because every time we do a change, it has to be recognized by the Registry of Deeds and filed. And I would like to be able to make that comment too. From here on in, since I'm still on that document that's filed at the Registry of Deeds, Larry Brophy, God rest his soul, is still listed as a trustee, and he's not with us any longer, that we have to be cognizant of changes in membership and then doing refilings with the Registry of Deeds to stay consistent, because you're signatories. And with that signature ability, you can expend money. And it really needs to be up to date, and it should be whatever the current composition of the committee is. So I just draw everybody's attention to that. That's not new, but I don't think we've been paying much attention to that. So the document is pretty clean, although I found myself making another mistake with the use of the word board, because I was the one who brought up board stands for Board of Trustees and the Select Board in the document. I expunged all of them but one, so I'm going to fix that. But if you have anything else that you don't think belongs there or does belong there, now's the time to send me something so we can put it in the packet for the next meeting. And whatever happens, it has to be identical to whatever it is that the trust itself adopts, because it's a bilateral agreement. Is that clear to everybody?
As mud.
If we say yes and they say no, it's no. If they say yes and we say no, it's no. It has to be bilaterally agreed upon, whatever the language is. We did change the composition, and that's pretty clear. There'll be a board composed of 5 voting trustees, and the town administrator will serve as a permanent non-voting ex officio member. So that's something we had promised, it's in here.
So
And then
that-
every year at the anniversary time, it's consistent with the charter of the town, the first meeting after the beginning of the fiscal year, they will reorganize in the same manner every other committee does. And from among its members, it'll pick a chair, a vice chair, and a clerk every year. Just as simple as that.
So, Mr. Chair, just for those that, you know, if it's okay, just so it helped me understand what we were doing. So last week at town meeting, or 2 weeks ago at town meeting, we changed the bylaws in the town that required the voting membership of the trust to change, so that the board appoints the appointees and not the town administrator.
And this is the effectuating document.
This is the effectuating document. So after that change, the board and the trust both have to vote to make a permanent change to the trust document, which is what we're
We would
discussing
both
here.
mutually sign this after votes. It doesn't have to be unanimous in each position, but they would have to be the majority of both boards. And then each board would sign the same document, and then it would get filed with the trust.
So that's what we're looking to do,
Yeah.
is to
and it's an
vote the
inverse
change that
pyramid.
was.
What we had is no authority to change the composition of the memberships, because it started with a warrant article that specified the town administrator had to be a member, and had to be a voting member, and had to be the chair. So we did the request for the town meeting to do the part that only the town meeting could do.
So now we got part 2.
But part 2 is that anything under that state statute that we decide we want to do, now would be the moment to do it, because you don't want to keep refiling every year or every 6 months. The only change I would recommend is untethering it to that one agency and just tethering it to applicable state law and regulations.
Mr. Chair?
Yep.
Brendan Lowney, I think I see a virtual hand. Could Could we hear from him? Is he?
Sure.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Brendan Lowney, Affordable Housing Trust. John, just for some clarity, in Article 2, so ultimately what you're looking for, I know this discussion can happen later, but what you're looking to do is just clarify the language that if the state were to ever change the regulations, on AMI, that our document would not fight that. Is that kind of what you're asking?
That you could move with it immediately instead of having to amend anything.
Okay, understood. And then also, just for just point of information on CPC funding goes up to 100% AMI, and also the select board language that's in the document that runs through it. I think we talked about also changing that in the future as well.
It is changed.
But yes.
In the draft that I gave these folks, we took out all references to the board, and it specifies.
No. I was talking the board of selectmen going to select board.
I did that, but I'm also saying that there were numerous citations of the board shall without recognizing whether it was the select board or the board of trustees. Each of them now occupies its own definition. Everywhere that it's specified, it is clear that it's either the board of trustees or the select board. So that there's.
So what you have in front of you is not what's in the packet?
Correct.
That's
Brendan,
correct.
I'm
That was
happy
the
to
original
share-
one.
Brendan, I'm happy to share that with you if it's all right, Mr. Chair. Is it all right if I share that draft with
But we
Brendan?
weren't
I'll
taking
email
action
that.
on this tonight, Brendan. That's why it was a placeholder in there. I was able to, over the weekend, change this in accordance with the way the article at the town meeting was. And what we have is not what you have. That's why we're not voting on it.
Understood. Thank you.
I just emailed it to you, Brendan, to take a look at.
Oh, thank you.
But I guess this is an opportunity, if anybody sees anything that they didn't like or do like, now you could say it because it'll be on another meeting for us to actually vote in.
I would like to check with legal regarding the updating the filing of new members. If I remember right, there was an opinion from legal that said you don't have to do it every new member.
But if you read this, you do.
Correct. So what were you suggesting to be in the new draft?
Nothing other than what was there.
So what's in?
I found that really odd, now that you're bringing it up, because John Giorgio was the one who wrote the language in this that said you have to go back to the registry. And then Ms. Goldberg decided that you don't have to. Same law firm. It does say here that you do have to go back and execute another for any changes in membership. I mean, we can go back, but I mean, this was part of that.
So if I'm hearing you right, and I just want to make sure I'm hearing what you're saying, you would like to keep it so that any new member is required, there needs to be a change on the deed.
Yeah, I'm not interested in saying gotcha to anybody, but
No,
from
I
this point
understand.
forward, if we start changing membership, it's a fairly simple process to just get the signature page done again and refile.
Yeah.
So rather than going backwards and saying whose fault is this, it basically boils down to, it says in here that if there's a new trustee or if someone passes away, you have to refile. And I'm just taking their own words.
I'm not fighting you on it, just interested in the clarity of it.
I didn't write it originally.
Yeah.
That's the reason I'm saying it.
If we could, if Brendan's got a virtual wave going again, if we could.
I'll virtually recognize you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I think I just had that up.
Oh.
But I can add to this conversation. Tony Schiavi did mention this, and it is a nominal fee. I think it's a $109 fee to update the trust. But there was the KP Law opinion that it was something we really didn't have to do, but we could. So I think it's a easy thing to do if we wanted to do it.
Yeah, and Brendan, that was not to you guys or to us. That was the poster child for my frustration with dealing with KP Law, because we had 3 opinions from their own lawyers and they did not converge into the same opinion.
Okay.
I mean, Jen Goldberg had one opinion, and John Giorgio had another opinion, and Michelle Randazzo had a third opinion, and they were not consistent with each other. For 125 bucks, we're talking about people have unlimited signature authority to do a real estate transaction. I think $100 is not too much to ask. I repeat, I'm still on file at the Registry of Deeds, and so's Larry Brophy, and he's no longer with us.
So the intention, Mr. Chair, is to come back in 2 weeks with.
With a clean document.
A clean document for us to vote on, is that where we're going with this?
Yep.
Okay. And then we can send it off to the AG?
Yeah,
Oh, no,
and
then it has to go to the trust.
Then it has to go to the trust.
Go to the trust.
I'm hoping that I can talk to Michael and send him over a clean copy
Great.
too, so you guys
Yeah,
can look at it.
Happy to be part of that.
So the other part of what Don brought up is he's proposing the change to eliminate the reference to EOHLC and just have it say supporting state law. So feedback from that before the next meeting.
Yeah, here it is.
Feedback is fine.
Yeah, I think it makes, I mean, why would we single out EOHLC when we could just say defined by state law?
Yeah, well,
Seems like
they
more
keep
flex-
adding a letter to
Seems like
the
more
agency every year.
flexibility for us, so.
Okay, great.
Okay, so, again, I recognize that I wasn't able to deliver it to you until last night, so if anybody has anything else that they want to say, this is ridiculous, this would be the time to look at it, send me something. It'll be on the agenda next time. All right. I see. All right. You're up, Mike.
Good evening. I'm Michael Locke, Executive Director of the nonprofit Harwich Conservation Trust. Thank you for including these two conservation restrictions on your agenda for review and approval. They represent the ongoing partnership between Harwich Conservation Trust and the town of Harwich to preserve priority lands such as these two properties to protect water quality, including public water supply, recharge land, coastal water quality, including the Herring River and Robbins Pond, as well as wildlife habitat, scenic views, and town character, among other environmental elements that shape and enhance our shared quality of life here in Harwich. These conservation restrictions also qualify the Harwich Conservation Trust for 2 state grants totaling $650,000 that in turn reduces taxpayer expense to preserve these properties, which provide public benefit, and also reduce the cost to donors to Harwich Conservation Trust. Town meeting voters generously, unanimously approved $225,000 in CPA, Community Preservation Act open space funds toward the preservation of the Robbins Pond Woodlands property. One of the conservation restrictions is focused on that property. As you know, part of state statute requires the conveyance of a conservation restriction on a CPA open space funded project. On May 6th, the Town Conservation Commission voted its approval of the conservation restrictions and also provided a letter of recommendation to your board recommending your approval of the conservation restrictions. So I appreciate your consideration and I'm glad to answer any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Locke?
Mike, public access to both of these properties?
On both of these properties, that is not the case because of the following reasons. The Robbins Pond Woodlands property, because of the wetland configuration and the amount of stream flowing south from Robbins Pond through the system. It's a series of worn, rustic cranberry bog ditches. The property used to be cranberry bog in the 1950s, up until 1950s, but then was abandoned, so it's long since overgrown. It really doesn't lend itself well to public access. The other property, Pine Island, it's a 2.5 acre property. The ultimate goal with that property is to try and remove the driveway causeway, which connects the property to Lothrop Ave. And so the long-term goal with that property is really to turn into a wildlife refuge. It sits in the heart of the Herring River estuary. Harwich Conservation Trust, in partnership with the town, does a really good job of providing public access, most notably with these eco-restoration projects on Bank Street with the Colebrook project, including a half-mile, all-persons, wheelchair-accessible trail, and most recently, the Hinckley's Pond Herring River Headwaters Preserve with its mile-long all-persons trail, which also provides connection to the Cape Cod Rail Trail and a new pond overlook. That site, as you know, on Pleasant Lake Ave, opposite the Tech. So it is a very important goal of Harwich Conservation Trust to continue to provide public access, including all-persons access. But these two sites don't lend themselves to that purpose.
And Muddy Creek, by the way.
And Muddy Creek, that's another good example of a trail that's close to the East Harwich Four Corners area that is public access.
Mark, and I guess my answer to that is to not conflate. They have multiple tasks that the Conservation Trust does. In part, some of what they're doing is habitat preservation. It's not human camping or hiking. So not everything is going to be accessible, but it depends on what your objective is. If it's a wetlands and it has to do with habitat preservation, then you probably don't want human beings messing around in the area.
Yeah, each site is unique. We look at them as on a case-by-case basis.
But in general, that has been what they've done. I mean, there's tons of walking trails on projects that they've done. I am grateful for their presence in general because there is a mechanism, and I've said this numerous times, and it's appropriate to say it again. Even if people think that their town has designated something as an open space and it's preserved, there is a mechanism for you to petition the general court to get it unencumbered and do something if you have a new high school that you want to build or a fire station. It isn't in perpetuity. The partnership we have with the Conservation Trust is an excellent collaborative one where they are populated by people whose entire existence in that organization is to preserve in perpetuity that which they've aggregated and saved. So it's not exactly the same mission as we have. And I really don't want to see a time in 20 or 30 years where something that we spent lots of time buttoning up winds up becoming utilized again. And I don't think you folks have been partners with some of the most immense projects we've done, like Muddy Creek. That was with federal money, with local money. Chatham even paid into that. And then the Conservation Trust. It's a remarkable collaboration, and I think that we should recognize it as something that's a savior for certain parts of Cape Cod.
Mr. Chair? In support of the Harwich Conservation Trust, I'm making a motion to approve a conservation restriction at Pine Island, 70 Lothrop Ave, and Robbins Pond Woodlands, 0 and 61 Northwest Gate Road.
Second.
Okay, then you're not going to be dirt biking. No. Okay. All right, so been moved and seconded to grant the request. So any further conversation? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We're grateful again.
Thanks
you.
very much for the partnership.
Thank you, Mike.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I move to approve a special permit app for the Harwich Conservation Trust for a one-day liquor license, wine and malt, and a one-day event permit for an event to be held on June 12, 2026 from 4:40 wow, 6:30 very specific, for an event to be
Don't go
held
to the end of that
at
sentence without adding
204
something.
Sisson Road.
Don't go to the end of that sentence without adding something to it.
Second.
204 what?
Says 204 Sisson Road,
Second.
Yeah, well, you mean the Cultural Arts Building?
CAM building.
Yeah, okay. Okay, it's been moved and seconded to grant the application. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? It's unanimous.
Mr. Chair, motion to approve a new common vittler application for, Kadoja LLC, DBA The Bagel Hound Cafe, 297 Route 28.
Second.
Okay, looking forward to that. You're the owner or manager?
You want to be?
You're looking forward to it, too.
Right behind there, so I may as well. So.
Okay, so this is for them to get opened again. So any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? It's unanimous.
Mr. Chair, motion to approve a change of manager application for El Harbor Yacht Club, Inc., 371 Lower County Road.
Second.
It's moved and seconded to approve the change of manager for Allen Harbor Yacht Club. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? It's unanimous. Okay. Jeff had asked me to put this on here. There's a list of committees and reappointments I want to go over. Not in real session, but I mean, each of you should get a copy of that. If you want to ask to redline or do anything about members before we do the mass re-upping of everybody, now's the time to do that. So we'll send that out to you so that we can actually do a vote later on the next meeting. So that was the first purpose. Second one is, there are some committees, and I'm not sure how deeply you want to get into them, but they're somewhat different, each of them, but some of them are pretty low-hanging fruit, like the Youth Services Committee. Our employee doesn't see a value to it, and originally, I go back to when it was established, and it was supposed to be some component of being able to share some of the emotional burden of being able to be a counselor for kids. That doesn't work in the current environment with HIPAA and that committee, so there's really no relevance to keeping that committee. That might be on, you know, on a future agenda to drop, to populate it. Because we're obligated to fill certain committees currently, which will dovetail with the next subject, that are charter referenced. That isn't. Neither a couple of the others I can think of. But, so I think we should probably come back in the next meeting with some hard ideas about what is it you think we need to do, because we have, how many committees do we have now?
I don't know, a lot. I can find out a specific number, but I don't know off the top of my head, but there's a lot.
We have tough time populating them.
Yeah.
The important ones.
I think the two committees that your references have not met for quite a long time because they haven't been able to be populated.
I would feel better, and I think I've said this to you, talking to Carla, who's not currently a member, but is someone with an accessibility challenge. She's also the head of our VITAL program, which is a state program that's supported by the Mass Association for the Blind, and she's on the board of directors in Perkins. So before we drop the committee, I just want to make sure, we have made a move since we started that committee originally to have the assistant town administrator be the accessibility rights person within the government. So we may not need that, but I also don't want to pull the rug out from under them without them saying yeah or no.
Yeah, and I don't know if I want to pull, I don't want to pull the rug out from anybody. But I think, and I've been, over the last month, been looking at all committees and seeing
Okay.
when they've met, first off, if they're constituted, if they are, when they last met, have they filed, minutes? And there's some committees that just clearly they don't have a purpose. And therefore, they're not meeting. And I would also suggest that, and this is for a whole nother conversation, but I have 2 points to make while I have the ability to do it on this agenda item. The first is, I've received a couple of phone calls from members of committees that we removed due to non-compliance. And they're interested in reapplying literally immediately. And if I remember right, the temperature of this board, and this is why I'm asking maybe for a consensus, the temperature of this board was that if there were other people in the queue, that reappointment would not be looked at I don't want to call it reappointment because they're reapplying, and then we'd have to put them back on as a new member, wouldn't be looked at favorably by this board based on past action in history. Does the board have an opinion on that before Anita and I go and begin interviewing these people again? Only to have them get squashed if we recommend?
That's a 4-part question.
Kind of.
But there's at least one person that, I think you know who it is too, that had made an appointment with Emily, and we sent out the letter the day before she was supposed to come in to complete her compliance with the clerk's office. So there are some stories that go with this. It's not all of them are just, they don't care, they were ignoring us. I don't know. I mean, the only, for me, the only way for you to actually know that is to take the temperature of the board by making a recommendation for an appointment or not.
Okay. All right, so that's.
But you'd have to cover that as part of the interview to say, okay, what would be different now?
And I know from at least where I sit, if there's 2 or 3 other people in the queue, I'm gonna wanna interview those 2 or 3 other people prior to.
And that's your prerogative. That's what I'm trying to say, is that
Understood.
we operate off of your recommendations.
Yeah, and then well, go ahead, Sarah.
Right. I was just adding up the number of committees.
And then I think part of the future conversation regarding committees would be, and I've heard this quite a bit, many committees don't know what they're supposed to be doing. So maybe liaison to each committee on a monthly basis could give them some direction. I don't know, I think the board needs to get more involved, or there's an opportunity to really look at taking several committees. It all has to be better.
I think that's where the discussion has to go ultimately, because you've got the regulatory bodies. Those aren't optional. I mean, we're required by state statute to have them. And then you've got, there are advisory committees. But I find it fascinating that there are at least some of these that we haven't been getting any advice from for quite some time. So we've been operating without any kind of need for the advice. And I guess the question is there some new path that you could assign to them that would be helpful to us? Or, because we're supposed to get yearly reports too. If they're not meeting and they don't know what they're supposed to do and we don't know what they're doing, it's not just the liaison. In general, there's a number of committees I know that I haven't seen anybody report on in years.
Right, and to that point, the regulatory committees, I don't think we have to worry about. They have their tasks, they're driven by agendas.
They gotta have, yeah.
I don't think we even have to worry or be concerned with those. With respect to the advisory, sure, we haven't heard back from multiple, but whose responsibility really is it to drive a committee's activity? Is it the select board? Is it the committee? Is it a combination of both? I understand and I agree that volunteers are incredibly important and they do a great job when they work. But if they're just not doing anything and we're not giving them anything, I think of the housing committee. We could have had them working on seasonal community designation for the last 4 months, 5 months. And I believe we told them to do that. We haven't heard anything back.
I don't think they have a quorum.
No, they met a month ago.
You guys have a quorum?
Yes.
Yeah, they met a month ago. I watched the meeting where Art chaired the meeting and you had a quorum, but, you know, it's just one example of a committee not being able to figure out what they want to bring up and discuss, and we're not feeding them anything from our position saying, we'd like you to go take a look at this and give us a report in a month. If we're not going to do that, I think there needs to be a bit of an overhaul.
I think there probably needs to be an overhaul in general, because
I do, yeah.
the Housing Committee started out as the Affordable Housing Committee in 2000. Sylvia and I actually wrote the charge for that. It goes back 26 years.
No, I updated it a year ago.
But I'm trying to say that it metamorphosized. It was only about affordable housing at that point in time. But it's morphed into something that we were hoping to use differently, because even the trust document alludes to the trust relying on recommendations from the Housing Committee. So there really should be a Housing Committee. It really boils down to, do we want that to advocate for low and middle income housing opportunities, or are we still keeping it relative only to affordable? I think that's something we've got to decide.
I agree 100%. We need to be more involved. Period. With the majority of them. Now, handicapped accessibility rights, I'm their liaison. I've spoken to 2 or 3 of the members. they're having a really hard time getting together. It's been 9 months, and they can't get together at the same time. We have our assistant town administrator who is now,
Even Megan was too. She was,
of course.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, at this point, they haven't met, they haven't taken up any business. That would be another one that I would want a discussion with this board about, depopulating.
so I guess where I want to go with this is, from each of you, I'd like you to fully revisit the list of committees and submit to the chair possibilities for either revising or eliminating. Because, again, all those, we don't have the ability to populate all those committees.
Well, and it would also free up some members to populate other committees and maybe constitute.
Exactly.
So there's good to this, I think. There's a good outcome to this at the end of the
I'm
day.
not looking at this as axing anything. I'm
No,
looking
no.
at this as pruning so that that they'll be what we want them to be, is advisory
Agreed.
to us.
Agreed. So. I
If we
think-
already know what advice we want to get, there's no point in having a committee.
Correct. So is this on for another?
That would be your homework assignment.
I hope it's next meeting.
You mean you hope it's next meeting?
June 1st.
You're gonna be here?
It depends on the agenda.
It depends.
Art Bowden has a question.
Art, can't ask it from there.
And when you guys email Dawn with any of these thoughts, please copy Generai so we can get that into the packet as well.
I would have forwarded it, but that's fine.
Thank you.
Art Bowden, Vice Chair of the Housing Committee. We've had, of lately, 2 back-to-back meetings. Our third one got canceled last week because we didn't have a forum. It's been rescheduled for the 28th. We have the whole room here. Anyways, not to say that I'm the guy that's driving it, but I am the guy that's driving it right now. On our second meeting, actually our first meeting, we had a good heart-to-heart discussion. And my take is, I don't want to be the leader of the band here. I want the members to lead the band. I'll just keep the band together. And so I basically told everybody, nicely of course, you're gonna be the committee, and you got to come up with some ideas. I've been in the trenches so long. I can come up with housing ideas all day and all night. But that's not going to do any good because they're my ideas. I want your ideas. So they looked at me like, well, yeah. So with that, we've established a good agenda. And our first approach is to how do we bring an idea to become an agenda? So we got that discussion out of the way. Because everyone says, well, how do we get the ideas here? I said, well, you're going to bring the ideas. I said, nobody else out there is going to bring us the ideas because they haven't. The select board, they haven't brought the ideas to us. We're supposed to report to them, but we could sit there all day, but it's not happening, folks. It's not happening. So we're going to get proactive. So we got basically right now 4 agenda items that we're hashing through. One of them is the seasonal communities, and the person that, and after the committee hashes it out, that person's gonna either write a report and/or bring it to the select board and make that presentation. And then it's gonna come off the agenda list. And our working order is, it'll stay on the agenda list until we have an action item. And the action item can say, I can't take this any longer, okay, well, we'll drop it. But the action item is basically to write a report and make the report to this body here.
Great.
That's where we're at. Thank you for your time.
One thing to just have you take back to the committee. It is easy to advocate for something by looking at its positives. But with something like the seasonal communities, if you come back, generally, this happens a lot with state stuff. What are we getting and what do we have to give to get it? The whole conversation has to come back, or we're not going to be able to make an intelligent discussion.
We know it doesn't have board support. So
Until we find out what we have to do in order to qualify, it doesn't.
Well, our report will include what we have to do and what it's going to get us.
Fine, that's exactly what I'm...
That's all we want.
Good.
And we want basically to have our day on court. Vote it up, vote it down. Good night. Thank you very much.
Next up.
Thanks. Okay.
Good.
So that's as far as we're going to be able to get. But look at these things and see. I had my head handed to me, to be honest with you, about the bike committee and the trails committee. One would think that you could combine it into some sort of recreational trails committee, but one would be wrong if they said that. I was glad that I had all 4 tires of my car intact when I got out to the parking lot.
Might have been the person that hit you.
No, they're still circling the block. All right, so, where are we here now? That's another homework assignment, so you got a couple so far.
H.
Yes, okay. On Thursday, we have a discussion, an upcoming meeting with the Charter Commission. I know Richard's online, and I have asked on numerous occasions to Richard if there were voted positions on things he was talking about. Largely, there is agreement on the Charter Commission, so they're not in a particular place where they voted any, or more than 1 or 2 that I'm aware of, positions. We're not planning on going into that meeting with a voted position of the board for Thursday night. Each of you, if you have things that you think are really important to retain from the current charter, come up with that. If you think that there's stuff that is an impediment to good government and you don't understand why it's still sitting there, bring that up. And if you think that there's something that is completely missing from the charter, bring that up in terms of the discussion we're going to have. So, again, we're not voting on a position, and I don't know that we'd have a unanimous vote anyway. Just talking to each of the members, there's some different opinions. So I'm looking forward to a robust exchange of ideas. It's not designed for us to walk out of the room signing an agreement with them. It's more like, where are we coming from our direction, and where are they coming from so far? I know Jeff's had more FaceTime in front of him than most of us, so this is our opportunity for all of us to be able to say what they believe. There are things in the charter that have to change. There are things in the charter I hope they don't change. So we'll see where we go. Anybody else have?
Just one thing, Richard, if you're there, I don't know if this would help you out. I went through the whole, you're in red. I'm gonna prepare a set of questions based on what you guys have changed and submitted to you, and use that as a basis of discussion, because as I've gone through it, there's several questions, and I hope that will help. You can prepare some answers for us, and, we can start off the discussions that way.
Richard, the other thing that I would like to bring up is if you could identify, not you plural, could identify any of the parts of this that have actually been subjected to a vote, an actual vote of the Charter Commission, and what the result of the vote was, that would be extremely helpful to us. Because some of this is just, like I said, acquiescence, that you walked out of the room saying, yeah, we loosely agree on that, but that's not the same as a vote. So we'd kind of like to know with what we're looking at, what is it that you guys have actually voted to do?
It's doing to you what you did to us.
Mr. Chairman. They don't have a quorum.
Who don't?
There's Brendan and Richard. I was just seeing the other group, other people, see if there was a third person.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, but they don't.
No, they don't. I couldn't see.
So one half of the membership that's currently on here. Richard?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As I've said all along, we have not taken individual votes. We have been working on a consensus basis
I think
for,
to correct that, I think there are 2 votes that were actually made.
there are very few votes, if any, and we've been working towards consensus on everything that we're doing. We're looking for a robust conversation with you folks on Thursday night. Items that you want to see changed, items that you want to see stay in the charter. We're looking forward to just a robust discussion with you as a select board and us as the Charter Commission. So it's an open forum. We truly look forward to seeing all of you on Thursday night.
And I don't want this to get into the Wild West, so I would suggest that we might want to agree on linearly going through the charter, like starting out the section 1 and then going through to section 7.
Mr. Chair, understand, Mr. Lowney and I are members of the commission. We are not the chair or the vice chair. I think if you want to have any comments, you may want to speak directly to the chair, Ms. Linda Sabula.
Okay, the only reason I say that is I see this being awfully chaotic if it winds up bouncing back and forth between the last chapter and the first chapter.
I agree.
Trying to come up with some sort of rationale for getting us to be on the same page, even if we don't end up agreeing.
They sent I'm looking back at my email, Mr. Chair. I think they sent us,
The draft,
yeah.
but they didn't vote on that draft.
I
It's
see
a
what you-
consensus.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Richard, appreciate it. So we're looking forward to meeting with you guys.
Thank you.
So I'm going to set the table up, so we'll have the Charter Commission 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then Select Board this way. Does that work?
As long as you have party favors.
I'll have party favors.
Except
Remember-
they're a
Yeah,
9-member
we have
committee.
members.
8.
We have
Okay,
8 members.
All right, Richard, is everybody coming on Thursday night?
I believe so, Mr. McGrail.
Okay. I think we can fit everybody. We did the math before. I'll just have to figure it out. I was going off the meeting from last Thursday, so there was a bunch of people that weren't at the meeting last Thursday. Okay. I'll make it work.
Thank you.
Okay, so we'll look forward to that. Hopefully we won't still be here by the time that meeting starts. So next item, I'm going to start with the one thing that I asked, which was good news, actually. There was some uncertainty on the part of the town planner and the planning office in general that Pine Oaks 2, that's off of Bank Street, had its deed restriction evaporate. It had hit the time limit and it went off. But nonetheless, they have a contractual agreement with HUD. And the day after it evaporated, they still had the same tenants. They still needed to be eligible in the manner that HUD wanted them qualified so that they fully fit what the requirements of the state were to be on the shy list, that it was restricted housing. They apparently, unbeknownst to us, had actually been saying that they're provisionally approving that. I think it was every year or two, based on the expiration of the HUD agreement, to just make sure that they're under agreement in some fashion or another. So we have not lost that housing off of the subsidized housing inventory. It's still there. It may not have a deed restriction on it, but it still fits all of the other check boxes that need to happen, for the state. So that's good news. On the other hand, the whole notion of safe harbor is much more complicated than we discussed at town meeting, and I'm going to turn that over to Jay.
Yeah, and so the good news with that deed restriction is I think it seems pretty fair as long as the current owner still owns POV 2. It will qualify for that restriction in perpetuity. So as long as it's not flipped by them to some market rate entity, then we'll keep those units on the SHI, probably permanently, in that situation. And then following up on the conversation regarding the safe harbor and subsidized housing inventory and what it would take to get into safe harbor, had a good conversation with HLC last week. Robust opportunity to kind of talk through the different ways to get into safe harbor, and I'm gonna really just do this high level. So ultimately, there's two ways for the town of Harwich to enter into safe harbor and to be able to control its own destiny as it relates to 40B. So what safe harbor means is that if a 40B developer applies for a hostile 40B, not a LIP, so this would not be a friendly 40B, because we can still always move forward with 40B if the town wants to, even whether you're in safe harbor or not. So you have the opportunity to continue with projects that you think are in the best interest of the community, that, through the select board and the ZBA ultimately, if you're still in safe harbor. But you have two ways to be able to fight hostile 40Bs. And the first is the traditional way, which is to be over 10% of your housing stock, based on the most recent census, is affordable based on their formula of affordability, and that's in a list that's worked through on units that are approved through the ZBA, through either special permits or LIPs, through friendly 40Bs, or the different ways that you get onto the SHI through affordable units. If you can have 10% of your housing stock be affordable, then you have what's considered pretty much permanent safe harbor from hostile 40Bs. If all of our current units that are on the SHI, along with the huge change that we had last year with Pine Oaks 4, along with the inventory of the units that were put on this year, a handful of small projects, along with Penrose, which hasn't been approved for a comprehensive permit yet, but is trending in that direction. Once all of those units are approved, we'd be at 9.7%, just under the 10% threshold. So not quite there, but certainly getting close. Those units only stay on the SHI for a period of time without building permits being pulled. So to permanently stay on the SHI, building permits need to be pulled, projects need to move forward. So like POV4, we got credit right now for all of those units on the SHI towards that 10%. But once time passes and building permits aren't pulled for phases, say 2 through 4 of POV4, they would fall off the SHI. You don't stay on it forever until building permits are pulled. So to stay on it forever, to have permanent safe harbor, building permits have to get pulled on top of the comprehensive permits being issued. The other way, which was the good news that we found out on the call last week, is that there's the second option for safe harbor, which I believe we're getting close to qualifying for, and I hope we will. Because the town submitted an approved housing production plan last year, and because of the massive amount of units that we approved through the comprehensive permit and POV4, along with Penrose this year, we've met our goals for affordable housing based on the housing production plan in the first 2 years. By doing that, we would qualify. We have to apply to them, which we can do pretty easily, and they would approve a temporary safe harbor of 2 years. So that means for the next 2 years, we would be able to control our own destiny and to be able to say no to hostile 40Bs, and subsequently to approve friendly 40Bs that we feel like are in the best interest of the community. So 2 years is a short amount of time, but in the same breath, it's a long amount of time. It allows us immediately to not be subject to projects that this 5-member board is not comfortable with, along with the ZBA. So good news, it does mean that ZBA needs to approve the Penrose project to be able to qualify for that. I think we'd get a 1-year safe harbor if they don't, with work that was done with POV4. But if they do, and that ends up happening, then we'll pretty much work immediately to go through that very simple application process that HLC said they'd help us with, to be able to get that, what they call a certification, a safe harbor certification for up to 2 years.
And I want to lose this in the whole discussion, so Jeff, so you understand this, the safe harbor, quite simply, because they brought up Pine Oaks 4, and they brought up Penrose in that discussion. Should we get to the point where we're an impediment to the issuance of any building permits at Pine Oaks 4, this all goes away? we can't, we're not eligible for a safe harbor. They're looking for, even in the second scenario, they're looking for tangible progress. That would be evidenced by the adoption plan, by the comprehensive permit that was issued to them, and they're expecting that to go forward with them completing their financing and then having a shovel somewhere. If that's not what happens, my understanding is neither of those two safe harbor scenarios will work for Harwich, because it was only because of those numbers. Ironically enough, so that the public understands, those people who are adamantly against Pine Oaks 4, if they get their way, we don't have safe harbor.
Yeah, we definitely would qualify for the 2-year exemption because of the glut of units that was approved by ZBA last year.
But they're looking for continued progress.
Correct.
So that's what safe harbor, it's a mixed bag. But it's still good news, I mean, to a certain extent, because I think we all know that by the Lighthouse Charter School, there's a potential for a hostile 40B at some point, and that wouldn't be able to get filed under this
It would not be able to get filed, and ultimately, I'm pretty sure it would send up a red flag to any hostile 40B developer, don't come to Harwich.
So it gets you somewhere.
I'm willing to take whatever step we need to take to begin that process.
We've already done it, and the conference call has them telling us, they'll send us information.
Yeah, and prior to town meeting, I want to thank you for getting right on this when I asked you to, and as I said to town meeting, we're going to move forward on this as quickly as we can. I think Richard Waystack has his hand up there, just so you don't miss it, Mr. Chair.
Richard. Hello?
Okay.
So, yeah.
So he's just waving right now.
My gut, based on conversations with the chair of ZBA, is we'll probably be in a situation where this summer we'd be able to send in that certification.
Excellent.
Which I think is good news.
It is good news to the extent that there's unknown projects that they're still capable of throwing in a hostile 40B, and I'm going to say it one more time because it really irks me. I've been involved in housing for like almost 30 years now. The definition of making progress for affordable housing has to revolve around somebody crossing a threshold and seeing the ceiling over their head. Everything else is window dressing, and I find it absurd, and it angers me that somebody could come up with a hostile 40B, because that's the deal that they made with commercial developers, for a 100-unit development, where 25 of them are for affordability, whatever that might mean, 30%, 40%, 80%. But when it comes to the shy list, they are given credit for 100 units going on the shy list. I mean, it's actually sad. I mean, because you're one of the people who didn't make it off of the waiting list because they got past 25 and there were more than 25 applicants. What good does it do you that 75 people are paying market rate and they count for your state statistics?
I'd rather see it at 2% and make it real.
Yeah, well, it isn't real, is my point.
It's not real.
So we can only do what we can do, given the ground rules we got. But I mean, at this point, at least we can at least stave off the hostile ones.
Yeah. Agreed.
Any other questions for the town administrator on that? All right, moving along. Somebody want to make a motion for the dredge?
Mr. Chair, I move we vote to approve and authorize the chair to sign an intermunicipal agreement with Barnstable County to dredge the approach and entrance channel of Allen Harbor, contract not to exceed $220,092.
Second.
Moved and seconded to have the chair sign an intermunicipal agreement for the county to dredge. Any further discussion?
Just a quick question.
Yes, sir.
John, thanks for staying so late, first of all. I
Yeah,
know
John
this is
Harker,
busy.
Harbor Master. No problem, Mr. Kelly.
I know you're here late. Is this an annual thing, the sand migrating across the channel?
That's a very good question, and I wish I could answer that for you. It all depends on multiple different variables, being current buildup, past buildup, jetties, southwest wind for pretty much 4.5 months this winter. But I think well, I know that's why we planned the article for $500,000, which was approved at town meeting, to meet that demand if all harbors were annual. When I look back at the last 15 years, there was no distinct pattern. Saquatucket, for instance, was annual for 6 years in a row, and then we skipped it last year. Witchmere was usually every third year. We have to do it again this year, and we did it last year, and we did it the year before. So there's really no rhyme or reason or any way to predict it.
If the jetty is repaired, will that reduce the need for the dredging, or?
When I consulted with GEI, when I first started going over all of our open projects, ones that were on the past and going to be proposed for the future capital plan, when I went to them about Allen Harbor Jetty, they said it could reduce dredging needs by up to 20%.
Just 20%, okay.
Just 20%.
That's all I have.
Okay, we still have the motion out there. Any further discussion?
Mr. Chair,
Sir?
just trying to, the funding source for this is, would you say it was article money?
No, this is all from our operating budget. That's where
From
we
operating,
moved from the operating budget this year, or going into 27 to articles.
So it's an article moving forward.
Gotcha. All right, thank you. And there's available balance, obviously.
Yes.
Didn't we just do a dredge, another one?
We
Week.
we did one for Saquatucket.
Saquatucket last week? Okay. Thank you.
And there's some longer-term discussions that we want to have at some point about how we might want to approach this, but tonight's not the time.
I have some good news in my report that I'll just jump in on right now, just, so
I'm
we are,
I think we should vote first, and then you can do
okay,
that.
sounds good.
Yeah, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous.
So dredging operations in all three harbors are scheduled, they were scheduled to begin today, which is great news. We've been talking about this for months and months and months, and John and his department have worked tirelessly to put this all together. They were ultimately postponed today due to weather, but they're planning to commence operations Thursday this week. The work will begin at Allen Harbor, the worst situation that we have, and I'll keep the board updated as work progresses. But the good news is we should finally, because of the good work that John, and I should also say Amy Utowski and the Conservation Department have done over the past week, dredging operation should commence this week, finally.
Was it too nice today?
Yeah, is it too nice? Postponed because of
What
what?
was the weather issue today?
What was the weather? Oh, forget it.
In-town weather is a little bit different than offshore weather. So southwest wind today was difficult for them because part of the setup is actually dragging the pipe, and that's primarily done in like smaller Carolina skiff style boats. So to have that in like 2-foot chop out in the sound with southwest wind was difficult.
Babies, bunch of babies out there.
Good news, though, I tell you, John
I saw the
and
perfect storm. I don't want to be out there.
not to go into it in great detail, but John and Amy were faced, and John in particular was faced with a really significant challenge in the last week. And through his leadership and trying to work collaboratively with a group of us, this is going to move forward, and that's due to the work of Amy and John, and we owe them a debt of gratitude for that. Thank you.
Nice work.
Thank you. Any further questions in regards to dredging?
No, but I
for
would
now?
like to make note of one thing. We are one of the very few communities that have a slip where a ferry goes out and comes back. If we get to the point where he's not able to navigate out of here, he's operating off of somebody else's slip in Nantucket. And once it goes away, it'll go away forever because it has to be allocated on both sides. So it's super important that we wind up keeping that.
That was definitely one of the factors that we discussed with our other parties, and wouldn't call it a negotiation, but in our discussions with them.
I feel blessed that we've got it, so.
We did. John did a great job, and Amy, on her day off, I think, pinch hit and hit a home run. So
Sweet. Thanks, John. Anything else?
Just a couple of quick updates for the TA report. Just first, building department updates. Pleased to share that we've taken steps to keep the building department running smoothly during the transition period. Brendan Bride has agreed to step in as the acting building commissioner and is willing, I appreciate the willingness to serve and take the responsibility of this role. Also, seems like everyone is unanimously happy to hear this. Also hiring Jack Mee back to work alongside him in the acting role. Their combined experience will help ensure that residents and contractors will receive timely service while we look for a permanent building commissioner. I think we have a two retiree tag team situation that's going to be really helpful moving forward. That starts this week. Also, we've hired Richard Valeri as a part-time building inspector to support the department's inspection workload. He's really limited. I think he's only less than 10 hours a week, but he's able to pinch hit for building inspections as well. His experience will ensure that, with the robust number of permits we have right now, that we'll have timely responses to the inspection requests. Rec department updates. I'd like to report that due to a vacancy in the rec department, we've arranged to have John Losey, a former employee, return as a temporary program specialist to assist the departmental operations. John's prior experience with our program will help maintain continuity during this interim period. He's currently out of state, but he already started working last Friday, providing remote support, and will be available in person starting next Tuesday. I'm looking forward to that. Update, had a great meeting with the Harwich Garden Club last week. I had the pleasure of meeting with the Garden Club to receive, first they brought me a plant for my office, so that was a big win. An excellent introduction and learn more about the many ways they enhance and beautify the town. They've offered to help us look at Town Hall to beautify the exterior of Town Hall. Was also impressed by their dedication, the number of people that volunteer. I think they have 90 members, which is unbelievable, maybe even more, or maybe 95 members. They wanted me to discuss their Too Good to Waste composting initiative, and they're going to be putting flyers out around town, and also going to add some information into the newsletter about that, and express their I want to express my appreciation for their important work and the great work they do beautifying the town of Harwich. And then
Happen to bring you a ceramic pot with Harwich on it, so you can get rid of that other one?
yeah, I need to get rid of that. I have a Middleborough one that I'm looking to replace, so happy to get rid of that one. Then just lastly, I just wanted to let the board know that I've been invited to a meet and greet with the Harwich Chamber of Commerce this week on Wednesday. They've been both invited Jim and myself. It's an opportunity to introduce ourselves and meet some of the business community and strengthen our working relationships with the chamber. So looking forward to that.
Questions for the town administrator? Okay. Select board reports. Anita? Except to repeat that we're going to do a plaque
Yes. We're gonna do
for
it.
Ella. Mark?
Sure. I attended the spring concert at Monomoy Regional High School. Their concerts, their drama presentations are worth the trip to Broadway. They're very, very good. And I attended the Garden Expo, saw a lot of town employees working on Saturday. Another great opportunity, a lot of great advice, free material, free seeds. It was great taking.
I have nothing.
Yes, you do.
What do I have?
You and I will appear on a ballot tomorrow.
Oh, yes.
We'll need to go out and...
Please go vote. I need one. I just need one, maybe two.
Your wife didn't say she was voting for you? So, yeah, but in all seriousness, there are the articles that pass town meeting, and if they don't get a positive vote, even though you voted for it at town meeting, it isn't going to happen. So I encourage everyone to go out and vote. It begins tomorrow morning. So I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second.
It's moved and seconded. I'll see you all